Podtacular, the unofficial Halo Universe podcast presents episode 633, The Infinite Possibilities of Slipspace, recorded live on June 10th, 2018. Hello everyone, welcome to the Podtacular, the unofficial Halo Universe podcast. I am your host, Duststorm.
I'm your co-host, Godzilla T.
And we are post Xbox press briefing, which means Halo announcements, which we will talk about here momentarily. We have quite a few people on the show with us to talk about what we saw during the Xbox press briefing. Starting off with a couple of folks over from Forward Unto Dawn. No, not the shorts made by 343, the community Forward Unto Dawn. We have Fuchs on.
Okay, wait. I can now reveal that the name is technically Fuchs DH because I put my last name and first and middle initial together and didn't think that it would be unpronounceable until way too late.
Fuchs DH. Okay.
Or you can just call me David because that's easier.
Well, we got two Davids in here, so...
Hey. Fight to the death. There can only be one.
The David fight.
The David versus David?
Yeah.
Instead of David versus Goliath? So which one would be Goliath?
I don't know. Who weighs more? Like, who's bigger?
We got Godzilla in here.
Me.
Also from Fortnite to Dawn, we have Danny as well.
Hi, Leo.
Welcome back.
Thank you.
From the CMT SPv3 team, we have Masterz.
What's up, everyone?
And we also have David, or also known as Sandman. And you are, I think, just a competitive esports photographer. Is that the correct terminology?
Yep.
Okay.
I am. Indeed.
So a lot of the photos that you have seen from HCS, there's probably a handful of them that are this man's.
Yep.
So thanks, guys, for being on. We got quite a panel to talk about Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
As well as announced the E3. So this podcast is going to be dedicated to this one announcement trailer.
This 3-minute trailer.
I don't even think it's 3 minutes long.
Yeah,
I think it was like...
I was being generous.
I think it might be shorter than that, yeah.
I was joking in my Discord when they first aired it. I thought it was Connectimals too, with all the antelope and elk running around.
It's
okay, technically 2 minutes, 18 seconds, but...
Oh, 18, okay.
It was not... I was, one, not expecting it to be the very first thing that was going to be shown during the press brief. So that totally caught me off guard. And two, I didn't know it was Halo until I saw the Marines.
I had a suspect at the very beginning when they started showing it. I'm like, Halo. And then they started showing all this wildlife, and I'm like, no, that's not Halo.
See, that's what I thought. I didn't see a ring
and
or
then
anything.
When I saw the Marines, I'm like, this is Halo.
Some of the forest shots looked very Halo 3. I was getting those vibes whenever there's some of the greenery, so it was.
Yeah. But I wasn't expecting it with what we've seen with Halo 5 and Halo 4, so I'm like, okay. I wasn't going to associate it to a past Halo game.
Yeah. Well, the color is so vibrant in it. When they first showed it, I figured it was something else, and I kind of tuned it out. I'm like, yeah, I'll start watching when they show something of interesting. And then I heard, I think, the Halo beat, and I'm like, wait a minute. And I looked at it.
Yep.
So I've been ignoring the Halo announcement the whole time.
Yeah, I heard the music, and Halo popped in my head. I'm like, and I got to watching it. I was like, nah, this isn't a Halo game. This is like Far Cry 6 or something.
Yeah, the music, it had brief little touches where it was sort of threatening to turn into the melody from Impend from Halo 2.
Mm-hmm.
But it never quite got there, but that's what clued me in. That was Halo. Just sounded close enough.
When I saw the animals, I wrote it off. I was really serious about telling my Discord. I thought it was like Connectimals too. I'm like, oh, stupid Connectimals.
Connectimals look great now. Wow.
Far Cry beats Halo. Oh,
jeez.
That's a possibility.
It was a pleasant surprise.
You're going to have to kill a rhino for your health pack. Oh.
There are people still decoding part of the trailer too, but we're going to dive into a lot of different pieces of the trailer. People are deep analyzing everything in the trailer now. because that's the thing to do these days. And we got a few details from it, but I first wanted to kind of get just everyone's first impressions once you knew it was the Halo trailer. So like after everything was said and done, what's your feeling towards this game? And GT, will start with you.
Oh, please don't let this be Halo 3 again.
How so?
I'm on, well, Master Chief's armor. I'm still waiting to see how they explain that one. But anyway, this is their third game. And I don't want to see what happened with Halo 3 with the shooting mechanics change.
Yeah.
Honestly, that was the first thing that popped in my head, especially after I saw Chief. It does look like if the game renders the way they showed it, I will be buying a 4K monitor.
And hopefully there will be a Halo-themed Xbox One X to purchase with that.
I don't know if it's going to be an Xbox One X. It might be the next Xbox.
Okay. Will they be that soon?
Well, they did plug it
when it actually comes out.
At the end that they were working on the next console. And, the Xbox is 4 years old now.
Yeah, but the X is just a year.
But yeah, it's an interim console though.
Imagine launching a brand new console with a Halo Infinity game, or Infinite game rather.
Yeah. Don't feel bad. I've done the same thing 3 times already.
I keep saying Infinity. I keep thinking like UNSC Infinity.
Infinity, yeah, they're right there. But, like I said, Phil at the very end of the briefing said that their teams are working on the next console. And if he says it, that probably means they're relatively close to coming to market with it.
Well, the PS5 dev kits went out recently to some people, but I'm hearing that all the next generation consoles are going to be a more fundamental change and just a spec boost like the Xbox One X is and the PS4 Pro. Although Microsoft is putting such an investment on backward compatibility, all your games would still probably run on it, but I don't think they would show their first game being a next-gen system only title. Because the whole thing with it now is that you can buy your cheap system, your S or your X, depending on how good
they did it with Halo 3.
Well, right, but 3 was 2 years after the 360 came out. I think they would want this to be able to be playable for their Xbox One S and Xbox One X.
I think we're kind of getting to the point with the consoles where it's going to be just hardware evolution. It's going to be the same underlying software. You're just going to get better hardware to run things on.
Well, I got a feeling that the next console generation is going to move fully into the 64-bit era.
Well, some of it's going to be ARM, too. That's the big thing that everybody's pushing for.
Well, ARM's made some big advancements lately.
Yeah, so I would imagine what you see now is, running on Xbox One X hardware, and that's what it's intended to ship on.
And it's beautiful.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
I don't think I've seen a Halo game look that pretty.
It's gorgeous.
Well, that's what we said about Halo 5 and Halo 4 too, so.
Well, but that's the nature of technology. Now you look back at like Halo 4 and you're like, oh my god,
this looks like a whole other beast though, compared to like Halo 4 and 5 like cinematic trailers. Like if you look at like the Halo 5 cinematic trailer where Chief's walking through the desert compared to like this, for example, it's like a whole other thing.
Well, go back to the bubble shield spot for Halo 3.
That's true. Yeah.
I mean, look at that one, and then look at the trailer for Halo 4. Those are running on the same hardware, and Halo 4 looked a lot better.
Yeah, I never really thought about that.
Well, Halo 4 really pushed the Xbox 360 graphical capabilities a lot.
But when you have the entire resources of the CPU and GPU to render film, then it will always look awesome.
True.
I want to know what in-game looks like.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I think that's what everybody wants, and I think that's like the biggest complaint that I've heard from this whole announcement is that we just haven't seen any in-game, any in-game footage.
Engine.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's one thing to show the engine rendering video. I want to see the engine rendering gameplay.
Yeah, same here.
When it's got to deal with physics and all this other stuff as well.
Yes.
We all know that the cutscenes are going to be absolutely ungodly beautiful because Blur's doing them. And if 343 has anybody else doing them, they're stupid.
I agree with that.
Well, the thing about this whole announcement, though, is that even at the beginning, they have in the small letters, it's a gameplay engine. I have the thing up in front of me. It's a gameplay engine demonstration. So if you look at it, you see stuff like footsteps in the forest with the water in there and the light reflecting. Like, this is meant to highlight what their engine is capable of, not what an actual game is going to look like. Although they clearly have some really good stuff looking at it. And while the cinematics, like you're saying, even rendered in game are going to look really nice, this sense of scale and all this detail isn't something necessarily that would be fully implemented in the final thing. Like stuff like the Marines and the quality of that, I imagine, will be there. But, it's important not to look too much into what is shown here because it's really a tech demonstration for their engine than it is
a proper game.
And I think that's the weirdest thing about this, in that it's like Halo 3's trailer was a trailer, but then they also kind of had a tech demo because they showed it was real time afterwards. But this is more like a 343 jobs advertisement, and how they launched a new 343industries.com
yeah,
site.
Yeah, they just have a new page for their engine.
The intimation that, like, hey, this is this new engine, and hey, by the way, we're hiring, so the game's clearly not going to just come out because they're still working on this stuff. So it's actually kind of weird in that way that this feels sort of like it's a replacement for the...
It's like a relaunch of an industry or something.
Yeah, it feels like the relaunch of the Halo on Xbox One, like nothing trailer we got a really long time ago, where it's just like mostly it's like, all right, hey guys, like this franchise you really love is coming. This is like, hey, this cool new game is coming, but we're still working on it. And by the way, we're hiring.
Yeah, and there's a lot of positions out there too.
So many.
So if you want a job at 343 Industries, apply at the link in the description. No. Yeah, I don't expect the game to look like what they showed to that quality.
I could see
the actual gameplay.
Maybe not running
don't get me wrong.
Smoothly,
it's going to look great. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
It's going to look great, but it's not going to be that good.
Yeah,
gameplay
playing
probably
on
not.
Xbox, so you're playing on PC, really?
Well, that's a difference
that's also
too.
true, yeah, because it's going to come to PC.
Well, I mean, that's another detail we haven't gotten to yet. This is going to be playable on Xbox and Windows 10. So Halo's coming to PC finally for a actual launch of the game.
Just throw some Titans, buttload of RAM on it, and it'll look just as good as the trailer.
Well,
My machine can handle it.
If you look at it, because YouTube has that feature to watch it at like 25% speed. If you look at some of the stuff with the trees, when it's played back at 25% playback, you'll see the trees start to flicker and change to the different levels of detail. So this isn't just all, everything cranked to 11 on super powerful hardware. You can see some of the optimization stuff they have going on with it too.
It's a beautiful engine.
Oh yeah, it looks amazing.
Apparently Late Night Gaming, and I think it was Destiny Halo that put this in the Mixer chat, said that he thinks it's a spin-off of the Unreal Engine.
Yeah, I know they've been recruiting people for UE4 stuff in the studio, but on their job description, they also have openings for VR style games that talk about using Unreal too. But Unreal, is kind of the thing is, everyone in the industry is trained on Unreal and Unity. Halo's engine is 20 years, and
isn't Installation 01 based off Unreal?
Unity, that's Unity, and then
Unity.
Contingency is based off of Unreal 4.
Unreal, okay.
And
That's
previously CryEngine.
Okay. All right. Well, before we get too far ahead, I want to wrap around to the other questions to let other people get a chance to answer. So, Sandman.
What was the question again?
I was going to ask it. So, what was after watching the entire trailer?
Yeah.
What was the thing that you were most excited about?
I mean, I think it's definitely the classic art style to the armor. But the initial reaction, as soon as I didn't know it was a Halo game until I saw the Marines like everybody else. And then when it shows like Chief's armor and you hear like the music, it's like obvious. But I mean, the initial reaction to me was just like, what is this game? Is it Halo 6? Is it a side game? What is it? Because obviously we know now that it's the next installment after Halo 5. But like, how does his armor go back to what it is now? You know, all that type of thing. So that's my big thing that I initially was just kind of confused about. Like, what is this game? But definitely the classic art style of Halo is what I was more excited about, because I'm just not too fond of Halo 5s.
I can appreciate that, and there are certain aspects of the Halo 5's art style I think work pretty well for the Halo franchise, but Halo 3 just is...
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of the standards that you have people know Halo for. Halo 2 was a great step after Halo 1, and then Halo 3 was just kind of it. And granted, Halo 4 looked pretty, but Halo 3 just kind of had that iconic, not to...
And I think that's kind of what it is, too. It's like Halo 4 and 5, they look beautiful. Like, they're beautiful looking games. Like, not even to diss on any of the artists at 343 or anything like that. I just don't feel the you know, everybody said this already, but I feel like there's not a lot of the classic art style in those games.
And there's something about the Halo 3 style that just, it really clearly defines Halo 3. It's not overly complex as some of the other stuff that you see across the industry, but it's not overly simplistic either. So it kind of has that nice balance.
I agree.
At least in some of the beauty and the architecture that is within what we saw here. And I can see some similarities between what we saw in Halo Infinite and what we see in Halo 3, but there's also some pulls from Halo 4 and 5, I think, that have been just improvements that they're kind of keeping in. At least it feels that way.
Yeah, I agree with that.
Okay, Masterz, how about you? Initial reactions. Are you muted?
Oh, God. He's gone quiet.
Oh, man. I did go on mute. I hate this headset. So my first impression, as I said earlier, was I didn't think it was a Halo game, and then at the end I just rewatched it. And then I started taking notes of it, and I was posting some stuff on Twitter, like looking at the Pelican cockpit. Because as much as people are, you know, I think a little bit jumping the gun about classic art style, yeah, like the Chief is back to a very Halo 3 look. Even the arm gauntlet is back to the 3 holes on his wrist, and the undersuit is using a rubber material again, after switching to the weird like bubble wrap in Halo 4 and then the leather in Halo 5. But if you look through the trailer, the Marines are all holding the Halo 4-5 battle rifles without the scopes, which makes me think that they're just going to be throwing their modular system back on it again. Because if you look in the cinematics of 5, they don't have the scopes because all of that's handled through their attachment system. But then you look at the Pelican, and it has the same sort of, I'm not forgetting what I'm looking for. I guess the framework that was more angular compared to the bubble jet pilot one that they have in 4. But the Warthog is the Halo 4-5 one. The Forerunner towers are all in the 343 art style. And even the Marines look like they're a derivative of 4-5. And if you look at their helmets and the chin guards, it's using that chin strap that people like to mock a lot. But it's also using some of the geometry shapes from Reach's Spartan and Marine armor, or Army armor, I guess. So they're doing a mix of it. It's kind of cool that they're bringing some stuff back, because while I overall enjoy the art of 4 and 5, I feel like 5 especially is just too desaturated, and running on the Xbox One, it looks not good. But if you run on a PC at 4K or supposedly on the X, although I haven't really watched much X footage of it, it looks really like an entirely different game.
Well, I can tell you at 1080p, it looks amazing.
On the X, or?
On the X.
Yeah. You're getting all the extra texture filtering and advantages of that. But I'm just a little bit curious also about them going with the classic Chief, because when they designed the Halo 4 and 5 art asset, they put those thrusters that they eventually used, put the full use in Halo 5, but that was something that they concepted into the original remake of the armor, and they even showed it when they first announced that armor in Halo 4 in 2011, and they used it in the cinematics a few times in the game too. So I'm curious if they're going to go with a more Halo 3-esque design for the Spartan. What are they going to do about the thrusters? And I also was thinking to myself, like, how are they going to get over all the obstacles that come from that original art style for the Halo 3 Spartan? Because they scrapped that entire design for Reach because they wanted to do something that was far more modular, to give characters different silhouettes and, you know, not just be swapping out minor details on their armor. So I'm kind of curious as to what they're going to do and how they're going to tackle some of the problems with going with the original art style. Never mind all the mocap problems with having something that not exactly built around actual human proportions.
The most important question, space diaper or no space diaper?
Well, you can see it, actually. I'm looking at the part where he's holding his helmet right now.
You can see space diaper?
You can see like a small cheek of the space diaper.
We have a cheek, confirmed then. Okay.
We have a cheek.
The most important question of the podcast. Is there the space diaper?
As we discussed the Master Chief's butt.
All right. Well, since you brought up the question, David, how about our Fuchs or how do you say it? Fuchs?
Fuchs.
Fuchs.
Rhymes with pukes. In the German, it's more like Fuchs, but I mean.
Okay, Fuchs. Whatever. Okay. Fuchs, how about you? Initial reactions.
See, I think one thing I definitely like about this from what we've seen in terms of the art style is not so much the iconic stuff, but more that I've always really liked Sparth's concept art design, and he's got a really specific look where he masses out things and then he uses stuff that suggests more detail than there actually is. And I think while I like a lot of what's in Halo 4 and 5, and I think it's just issues with people not being able to let go what their childhood version of things was, that there are fair criticisms about stuff, about putting all the extra power we have towards the wrong things, and that, like, I'm not sure if we need that many more details in every little facet of every little bit of armor, etc. And so I like that from what's shown in the trailer, especially when you get that big wide shot of the vista. It looks almost painterly. I think it has a really nice look that makes it not look like, all right, this is a next gen game. We have to show like bow and fear of my pixels and 4K stuff. So I think it has a streak of minimalism to it that I like. But the question is, of course, how much of this is going to be representative of the final game, because it's all in engine and who knows what will change. Maybe this stuff was, I mean, obviously the Chief helmet is deliberate, but who knows if you're supposed to really gather the Warthog is going to look like the Halo 4 or 5 one because of this one shot, etc. And then also on a more macro level, I appreciate if you're a person who hated the old art style or whatever, you're obviously hyping yourself up perhaps too much. But you're excited about in their on the Waypoint news bulletin item for this. They talked about, like, we've heard your complaints and stuff, so we're gonna I think they used iconic in there too. God, so overused a phrase, but that it's coming back, and oh, by the way, we're gonna have a more Master Chief centric story and stuff. And I think honestly, one of 343's problems is that they're trying to have it both ways, and that they're trying to change things, but also they keep on reacting to what vocal fans say.
I was thinking the exact same thing. I kind of wonder
if, for better or worse, like, they really just need to stick to their plan. Like, who knows, there's all this scuttle about the development, and like, oh, well, does this mean that Halo 6's original intent was scrapped and they did this and that's why it's taking so long? It's like, like, there were definitely issues with Halo 5 storytelling and with the focus on Fireteam Osiris over the Chief and stuff like that, but I'm not sure throwing it all out is going to be the best option either, like trying to reinvent the wheel constantly based on feedback, because you will, as someone who has dealt with painful art critiques, you can start just psyching yourself out and making things worse by trying to respond to every single piece of feedback you get. And my concern, even though what we've seen looks cool and promising, is that 343 is just going to focus so much on being reactionary that they aren't going to give us what they should be giving us.
So that brings up an interesting point, though, because you have a studio that didn't originally come up with the idea of the franchise. Granted, there are a few people in there that have been there since very early on, like Frankie and a couple others, but it's still one of those things that's like, okay, how do they define what is kind of their continuation of the franchise while still making what people expect. Because
it's definitely tough.
Yeah, Bungie had the position of being able to make the game that they wanted to make, and they knew the foundations of the franchise and where they wanted it to go. But 343 kind of just picking it up, it's like, okay, we have this game now. We're not too sure what the direction was and what all the foundational elements of was for this franchise. So we're going to be kind of guessing, and we're going to use community feedback to kind of determine what that direction should be. So it's almost like a blessing and a curse because, one, they're trying to make it to where the fans are getting what they kind of want to expect, I guess, without having the direct influence into the game making process. But at the same time, 343 is also trying to figure out, okay, well, what's our version of the Halo franchise that we want to push forward to people?
And I think it's tough partially because it's just expectations. Like, people don't bring it up all the time, but like Halo Reach changed a heck of a lot. Like, they changed the way the elites looked. Like, they changed so many classic things, and like, all right, well, this is the way it is. They gave us those god-awful banshees that we've been inflicted with every single game since. Which clearly, that was actually probably my deepest disappointment from Halo 4 was they had early concept art with the Halo 3 style banshees. I was so excited, and then it was just a reskin of the Reach version, and I was sad. But so that's part of the thing. It's like, it's not even 343's fault. Like, because if Bungie was making the same games, you'd have the same criticisms. It's just because they're not the original developers. But I also wonder just broadly about, listening to the fans, what Microsoft overall thinks about Halo as a franchise now, because are they really planning on ever it being the giant COD-sized impact it once had, or are they deciding we're going to cater to this smaller, more vocal group of fans because they will consistently buy the games? So I think there's obviously, since this is a game company, business comes into it too, and so I'm not sure how much of their decisions are based on what they've decided they want Halo to be going forward from a business.
And I think they might get there eventually, but I think at least they're kind of in a stable point. I don't think Halo 5 was the home run hit that they needed to kind of get their feet back under them for the community to really trust them with the franchise, but I think it was enough to say, okay, they're making the steps in the right direction, and
depends on who you talk to.
Well, yes, it does. But looking at the Halo Infinite trailer and looking how it is incorporating some of the older art style, which it seems like a lot of people here, that's kind of the first thing that stands out to everybody. Maybe that's telling to some other aspects of the franchise where they're going to kind of go back to some other more traditional classic styles of Halo in other formats, so like the storytelling and the game mechanics or other things possibly.
Oh, but that's even worse. Like before this announcement, there was over on the Reset Era forum, there's the giant list of people who want, well, I like clamber, but sprint and thrust have to go. Well, I like sprint, but clamber is terrible and it doesn't do anything. Like, well, I like sprint and clamber, but thrust has to go. It's just a get out of jail free card. So it's like, what? And then there are the people who are, of course, like classic Halo. Like, I shouldn't even be dual wielding because, So.
Well, and yeah, that's where a tough balance comes into play, because there are certain key facets that scream Halo that you want to include it while also trying to push the game forward. So it's kind of a give and take of like, okay, what makes up the quintessential Halo experience to not change that, but then evolve the franchise and the games and the mechanics and all that stuff to bring Halo into the current generation?
See, I'm not necessarily sure. Well, they're kind of playing it safe with this because I don't really think it matters if it has sprint, clamber, Spartan abilities, whatever. They just need to have a game that people play and have a good time with. Is it going to be what everybody wants? No, but as long as people are playing it and having fun and continue to play it, that's what matters most. And in some ways, they played it really safe with this trailer because there's enough in here to get Halo fans who like the new Halo and who like Halo 5 and want to see what comes next excited. And there's also enough to make people who may have tuned out on the franchise to give it a go when you see these big vistas and a Halo ring.
Well, and that's something
and that's kind of what matters most.
Frankie made very clear over on Reset Era, talking about, I guess we'll probably get into it later, but when talking about the time frame and stuff, he made clear that, hey, this is intended to be a game that people who haven't played it or haven't played it in a while can jump back into. And he likened it to Combat Evolved, where it's a game that starts off and like you quickly get what's going on, but it's also in the middle of a war that you have not had any experience with, which was an interesting comparison. So I definitely think that there are a lot of people have been talking, oh, well, this is like a reboot of the franchise. They're definitely trying. I don't think it's a reboot. They're not that crazy, but that they're definitely trying to, I guess, reorient the franchise in the mind of casual people alongside the hardcore people who have been here forever.
Yeah, I think that makes sense. Also, there's that, I guess we'll talk about it more later, but the Pelican gives a date for when this takes place, and it's, what is it, about 2 years after the events of Halo 5?
May 25, 2560?
5/27, 2560.
And what was 5? November of
2558.
58, yeah.
So almost 2 years later, which is kind of a significant tangent considering most Halo games take place, a month or 6 months other than 4, which took place, years after the events of 3.
Right. Before we move on to some of the other stuff, Danny, since we haven't asked you the question yet, what were your initial reactions off of the trailer?
My first thoughts, obviously, other than reacting to the trailer, was it was kind of obvious that they were pitching the game differently than the previous games, all the previous games, as a matter of fact. It reminded me of the fact that they said before that they wanted to drop the numbered title from the series, and this was a very bold, well, we're going to just do it this time kind of move. What was really interesting as well is that Aaron Greenberg, the Xbox guy, was on doing an interview straight afterwards, and in relation to the game, he was talking about games as a service, which is a very popular term in the industry right now. And games as a service games are not what Halo has been up until now. Halo has been on a 3-year dev cycle where it throws out your big campaign game with your multiplayer, your DLC, you get it all going. I know Halo 5 changed it up a little bit with its microtransactions essentially, and that was a very favorable thing. A lot of people responded well to it. I know they made a lot of money off it. So whenever they're obviously moving over to what looks like a games as a service sort of style with this title, and that would actually facilitate that transactional model, the microtransactions, that would actually do that well. So they also kind of imply if it's more open shared exploration kind of title, so that would sort of maybe imply that the game modes wouldn't be as separate as they would be, as clearly defined in Halo 5. For example, you have your cosmetics and extra things you can purchase in one mode, but you can't bring it over to the other, and it feels as if like they're trying to pitch this as an overarching, wholesome games as a service experience, which means also as well it would break out of the 3-year cycle that traditionally Halo games would lock themselves into, and I think that would have a much more profound impact going forward for the franchise that people may not realize at this point.
That's an interesting thought, and it kind of gives way to, I guess, using a platform to deliver content instead of having to recreate a whole new segregated experience. So I guess you're kind of getting at the point where they just make updates to the engines and then they would release campaign expansions and map pack type of stuff.
It's the sort of thing that I didn't think they handled very well with Halo 5's post-release content. It felt very kind of drip-feedy, and it wasn't. If you look at the other competition, look what other games are doing with their post-release content. It's giant sort of expansion passes with chunks of solid content that expand all areas of the game, and the post-release content for Halo 5 felt lacking and not really as well-rounded as other games did. And at the same time, they were raking it in with those Spartan packs, whatever you call them. Like, they were making hand over fist money with people buying packs.
The rec packs made quite a bit.
Well, and I think it's definitely clear. I think Danny hits that they were definitely dipping their toe in with the microtransactions in Halo 5, like when you realize how terrible it was to navigate your wrecks after a while because they added so many more than were clearly originally designed to fit into that. So it was definitely, let's see how this works. And they obviously got a response to it.
Didn't Halo Wars 2 include a similar system to that?
Yeah, but it kind of...
I don't think that did well, though.
The Blitz packs? Are you talking about the season pass?
Yeah, Blitz packs.
Thing? Okay.
The season pass was great. I love the season pass, but the Blitz packs were, irrelevant, I think.
Yeah, Halo Wars 2, as much as I love it, it's DLC, structure, and microtransactions. I mean, it's kind of a disaster, because if you buy the game for the base price, you're at a disadvantage because you literally can't have access to the same abilities as other players in matchmaking. And if you play the Blitz, it's all about those card packs. And in that case, you're not really going to have a hardcore following of people, because people who like RTSs want traditional RTS and not quick 15-minute match stuff. I don't think anybody's really satisfied with Halo Wars 2 DLC, at least from the Halo Wars 2 groups that I play with.
Gotcha.
Well, I mean, for me, the campaign DLC, I was completely happy with. As far as the multiplayer, I haven't really gotten into that part of it.
We actually got campaign DLC. Whoa.
Yeah, but even that wasn't without its controversy.
There is a balancing act here, too, with if the Halo Infinite is just going to be infinitely updated with campaign expansions or things like that, they're going to have to be very careful between what they do for microtransactions and what they do for expansion passes. Because I would spend the money, but I can see a lot of people not doing that. If they're going to do an expansion that's $70, there's going to be a lot of people that are going to balk at that.
Well, I'm sure you'll have microtransactions in some form as well to subsidize all that. I just actually realized I've been watching the trailer over here in slow motion, and they actually look like they have the ability to change the time of day in actual gameplay.
As long as they keep the microtransaction relegated to one game arena like they do now, I don't have a problem with it. Where the cosmetic stuff kind of rolls over, but none of the game-breaking stuff does.
See, cosmetics is definitely something that should cross over, but I don't agree with having a gameplay impact in DLC at all. I think it's atrocious. What they should be doing, if they're doing a games as a service, is make sure whatever microtransactions, whatever variables they're playing about with to let you purchase and play with, should be across everything. Because that's the whole point. You buy it so you can show it off, you can wear it, people can see it, you earn it. So locking that into one thing,
cosmetic stuff, that's fine. But I don't want them jumping into a multiplayer match with a Spanker Prime.
Oh no, I agree with you. That whole aspect of Halo 5 turned me off massively. I used to love BTB because it was basically just a massive bunch of fun. Everyone has equal starts and things develop from there. And I felt whenever I was playing Halo 5, it was like, I can't afford to play this game against these people. It was a terrible, unfun experience over and over again, and I just never looked back.
Oh, see,
the Warzone side with the microtransaction system that they used worked just fine because they had a way to mostly balance the weapons that people could use with the competition that was in the arena. It's not, 3 seconds in the game, somebody's pulling out a Phaeton Helios just because they have one. And it was confined to that play style.
Experience. Yeah.
In that experience, it didn't go into arena. It didn't go into big BTB. It was confined in that spot, in that area. As long as they do that again, I won't have a problem with the microtransactions as long as they give you a way to earn in-game currency to buy your rec packs or whatever they decide to do.
Well, and it also wasn't it was not a Battlefront 2 level grind to get through everything.
Right.
Like I played the game frequently, but not a lot. And I quickly got through everything. I got all I needed. What sucked is the poor people who had to wait forever to get a DMR. That was probably the random aspect of when you got those items was probably what killed it for some people.
Yeah, there are some definite improvements that can be done. For one, on the cosmetics, well, for the cosmetics, you save up your points and you buy the pieces of armor that you want, or the emblem that you want, or the visor that you want, and some of them are locked behind accomplishments, like completing the campaign on Legendary, things like that.
See, I wish they'd bring that type of thing back, because that's how Hell armor was in Halo 3. Like, it was accomplishments that you had to, like, endure just to get. I mean, even if it was, like, the basic, like, scout armors and stuff like that. Like, I don't know. I feel like that was a much more rewarding process to get armor, opposed to just buying it. I feel like buying it's almost, like, mindless sometimes.
Yeah, 3 had some...
Well, I'm not saying every piece of armor needs to be purchasable, but there should be special pieces of armor that are locked behind a goal.
I agree.
Yeah, I agree.
I liked Halo Reach's armor system. I liked having to earn the points to buy the armor.
I hated how expensive it was because I never got any of the stuff I wanted.
Same.
Well, I managed to unlock every piece of armor and, every single piece in the armory. I could wear whatever I wanted.
Including the flaming helmet and stuff?
The only piece that I have not... The only piece that I haven't got was the one for reaching max rank. What was the name of that helmet? The spooky helmet?
Oh, yeah.
Ghost Pilot, yeah.
Yeah, Ghost Pilot.
Yeah. That's the only piece of armor that I don't have. And that's just because I haven't grinded out to Inheritor yet, which is a long freaking way away from where I'm at.
That is a long, grindy road.
I mean, I've had people suggest that you basically smushed Reaches and 5 system together, that you could just get it basically for cheap randomly, or you could spend a higher credits or points, whatever, up front and then get a guaranteed unlock, which I think would placate people who are upset when they've got that one thing they want to get and they don't want to have to wait for RNG to bless them.
Yeah, I think, unfortunately, some of the RNG stuff is what some people actually expect now. You need to have some sort of grind.
Yeah, the Skinner box thing.
You need to have that, otherwise some people, especially younger crowds, are going to tune out. And I mean, I say this a fair amount on Twitter and upset people, but we're all older fans. In some ways, we actually don't matter, because the classic Halo fans, while, it's important to have us all who still play Xbox get a game, you can't just double down on your existing base that's going to shrink year over year as people opt out as they get franchise fatigue or families or just not enough time to play. And some of this stuff, some of this, like, younger players do gravitate towards stuff like the loot boxes and things of that nature, which, while they may not be vocal, and granted, anytime you have people who are in opposition to something in these games, the people who enjoy it are going to be the ones who are mostly playing it.
Well, I mean, what was it? I forget what PC game it was where everyone was all upset about whatever nickel and diming system they had. And then, of course, on Reddit, there were all the screenshots of them playing it day one. So even the people who complain a lot, they might just be full of it.
Yeah. Well, I think one big thing with Infinite is that it's important, because, hey, when Halo 5 came out, it was top of the Xbox Live charts. Some people like to paint the narrative that it sold terribly, but it was still the number one Xbox game that when it first came out. It's important that it actually gets that number one spot again by getting as many people's interest as possible. And if they like the game, they stay. If they don't like the game, they won't. But
the number one spot is relevant. It's continuous numbers. You need people coming back to the game day on day. That's where games as a service games make their money, not the day one initial release.
Well, if you get your day one initial release and you're 50th on the list, there's people that won't even bother to look at you.
Yeah, you need to be need to be top of the chart day one, because even if you lose 75% of your player base, it's better to lose 75% of your player base when you're at spot number 1 than launching at spot number 7.
Got to be consistent.
The problem is now Halo's not a top 10 relevant franchise in the games industry anymore. It's just not. It needs to get its way back up there. That's the problem. It needs to reclaim its title to be relevant, because are you going to convince a 12-year-old to play Halo or just keep on playing Fortnite with his buddies?
Exactly.
Well, that's why I'm interested to see what sort of battle royale style Halo thing would work, how that would work, because you kind of do need stuff like that to get people's interest. Even if, I'm okay with chasing trends as long as it's not to the detriment of other things. But I'm looking at like the top list right now, and you got 2 battle royale games on the top 5, along with like NBA 2K8, and then Grand Theft Auto 5, and then you got Rainbow Six Siege, which, if you want to talk about games as a service, from what I understand, that's how that game's been managed.
Yep, that's right.
It's simple. You have Grunt Battle Royale, Grunt Sports. Everything is just grunts. You play as grunts. It'll be great.
That'll definitely give you a different point of view.
Everyone is super short.
I mean, Battlefront kind of did it, but with like Ewoks. So I mean, yeah, that was fun.
Just the games industry has changed since Halo 5 came out is also very important to consider. Like, it's drastically changed.
I think the game industry is different altogether ever since Halo 3 came out. I mean, you can bring back classic Halo and whatnot, and it may or may not bring Halo back to the top. But I mean, now, we didn't have all these like battle royale games back in 2007, back when Halo 3's like peak. Million player base and stuff. So it's a whole different monster now.
There's always arguments about like how much of Halo's decline you can attribute just to straight up more competition.
Yeah.
But I think also one of the things because I love all the Halos to certain degrees. Like, I don't think there's even a bad quote unquote Halo game to me is above average. Especially campaigns. I have played some terrible campaigns. Killzone campaigns are, oh god. But I think it's one of those things where Halo 3 launched. I think it is definitely the weakest game in some respects, just because, yeah, it's amazing going back to it and not even be able to hit something more than 20 feet away because of the BR is inconsistent and stuff like that. But it also launched with an ecosystem, basically, that you could share stuff. You had save films. You had all this stuff. And I think it's kind of hard to replicate that too, because there's so much more to fuse. Like, how many different communities are there? How many different Discord servers? How many different social media platforms? How much of the stuff that Halo pioneered is now expected in every game that comes out, that it just wasn't at the same time? The same way Halo 2 basically built the idea for what online matchmaking would be like, at least for consoles.
Yeah, I think there's some of that. And I think another important thing to do is just to focus on. It's just hard for people to get into a series that's on its 6th or 7th iteration, especially when you go into a game. Like, is little 15-year-old Jimmy gonna jump into a game of Halo 5 Arena and have a chance to do well? He's gonna get walloped by people who understand the meta of the game after so many years. And I think you kind of see this when 343 puts out the rankings of playlist, and Team Slayer will maybe be 5th in the row, and everything else is casual, from Action Sack to the Warzone stuff, including the Firefight. They kind of hedge their bets on competitive arena shooter with 5, and I think they sort of realized once it came out that, hey, people actually like more PvE stuff, especially as Destiny kept on kicking.
Yep.
And stuff like that.
Well, and the game industry has changed drastically since Halo 3. Like Sandman was saying, I think that's definitely an attributable thing to everyone's expectations changing and the way that games are made.
I mean, heck, we don't even use Xbox Live Chat anymore, which, in my opinion, was a gigantic part of Halo 3 for me personally. So, I mean, it's so.
Yeah, I don't think I've met a new
we don't really do that stuff anymore. We don't get to chat with strangers and stuff.
Wait. What do you guys use these days?
Well, the party chat.
The party chat instead of the in-game chat.
Yeah, party chat, Discord, Skype. I mean, no one ever just sits in game chat and just talks. And if they do, it's a very rare thing. It's not nearly as frequent.
In Halo 2, Halo 3, I was always in game chat because of proximity voice.
Yeah, I've met some of my best friends through just game chat.
Yeah, I was saying, I don't think I've made a single friend playing Halo 5.
No, I definitely haven't.
Anymore, unfortunately, and this is just kind of the nature of the community that plays games, so, what comes out of the mouths of the people in the game is stuff I just don't want to listen to. It's things that they shouldn't be saying, period. But if I have a choice, I don't want to listen to it.
Oh, absolutely. And I think,
well, also,
but that's all
our friends have.
I mean, you can always I was just going to say, you can always I'm not to say it's okay for what these people are saying. It's not. There's a lot of immature people on Xbox Live, but I mean, I think that's definitely where the mute function came in handily. Like, I never thought it was necessary just to kind of form my own little clique and just sit in a private chat. I don't know. I felt like it almost isolated parts of the experience of not only playing Halo online, but Xbox Live as a whole.
Well, and I think back then that was your time to actually create friends in the online experience, because Xbox Live during the Halo 3 days, that was, I mean, you're only getting into year 3, year 4 of the live experience, and that was the first time you could actually really talk with people across the world, and that would be playing the same interest that you're playing in.
We didn't even have party chat back then either. So.
Right. Once you get to so many people that you know closely, though, there's not much more room for you to just keep on adding more and more people, other than the way that the internet kind of evolved.
Duststorm, I can add 1,000 friends on Xbox One.
Well, also think about what was around during the 2007. Facebook had really just started then. Twitter wasn't even a thing yet. We have all these other platforms that you can engage socially and actually make the friends over the internet a little more anonymously, probably a little more what people are kind of more safe to do, instead of going into a lobby and doing voice chat with the possibility of knowing you might hear some people just trash talking or using expletives when you don't want to hear that kind of stuff. So the internet and social media had changed alongside this change of Xbox Live. So a lot of that transitioned over to social media, I think, for getting new friends and learning about other people with your similar interests than you did back in the day, where it's like, okay, you have this resource, Xbox, it's kind of in its own contained little world. That's really the only mechanism that you had. But now you have Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, YouTube,
Reddit,
Discord, Reddit. Yeah.
Well, something else that has changed too is people have gotten used to the anonymity of a username.
True.
You know, the things that people will do under a user account pale, there's things they won't do in person.
I have had deep conversations with _XX420 blaze it XX _ deep political
I'm not saying it's all bad. I mean, there are plenty of people out there that are still respectful and treat you like a human being, even though they've got BYOB as their gamer tag.
But don't forget, nowadays as well, you have things like the whole moral tabloid hysteria over online strangers and dangers and swatting happening as well. Like, and that's ignoring the fact as well that if you don't have the right gender, you're pretty much guaranteed to have endless abuse at a bare minimum in terms of your experience.
Or age.
Yeah,
I agree with that.
Wait, would you really want to forward that these days? You know what I mean? Would you really want to help that along? I don't blame people these days for shielding their voice, their identity, and just talking to people they know and trust, because there's a lot of crap out there and a lot of crap people.
And there definitely is, but that's kind of what I was just kind of explaining. I mean, if it's such a bad thing, like if they're very bad, you can simply just mute them and continue to talk with the other people in the game, if they're even in the game, which most of the time they aren't.
See, that's the problem. At this point, the only people that have microphones are the people you don't want to listen to.
Yeah, it's sort of been like a negative feedback.
Because everybody else is tuned out.
I mean, there's also a certain level that you have your friend base. The only people that I really talk to on Xbox Live these days is when I play Halo Wars 2, and I play against somebody and they're really good, and I invite them into my party. We'll play a few games together on the same team. But when it comes to Halo and I'm playing Arena, it's so impersonal when you're just shooting shots at each other, playing Warzone. The whole team element of Halo, unless you're really playing at a competitive level, is kind of gone. And I think as much as Destiny as I don't play, people get their little cliques and their groups there to play as well. The games aren't really trying to get people to make new friends. It's more about doing things with your friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could agree with that.
Yeah, which, I mean, whatever they do with, I imagine you're wanting to shift the conversation back over to Infinite.
Yeah,
but
we can
I was
have another conversation about this in another show.
Yeah. I was going to say, with Infinite, I kind of wonder if they want to get rid of the sort of silos that Halo 5 exists in. You have your campaign, you have your Warzone, and you have your Arena, and then you have your Forge. because it seems to me like sometimes when people are talking about Halo 5, they're talking about 4 different games.
Well, Halo...
And that doesn't really bring people together either.
Ever since Halo 3, it really has been at least 3 different games. You've had your competitive, you've had your casual, you've had your competitive player, your campaign or lore player, and then you had your forger.
But I think there was a little bit more crosstalk back then between people trying to get armor in the campaign and...
There was a lot more crosstalk, but there were still, those 3 communities.
At the time, though, you didn't have those separate communities because everything was a brand new experience. So people that were already in the multiplayer and campaign experience were flocking to this new experience because everyone wanted to figure out what it was. And now you have that established difference that's been over the past 3 games now. So I think it's not an intentional isolation. Sure.
Well, I just hope that Infinite sort of bridges all of that. And if they're going to do something,
I could see them doing that type of thing. I could see them doing that type of thing just with the name itself. I mean, Infinite as like the Halo 6 title is Halo Infinite, which obviously we all know what Infinite means.
Yeah, it means that they're going to go to the city in the sky and they're going to rescue a Cortana and they're going to go visit Rapture.
That means that the campaign will be a never-ending loop.
I mean, I just kind of figured this game would be almost kind of organic in regards to, since it's Infinite, Halo Infinite, that it would grow over periods of time. Maybe even kind of like a Destiny type thing. I never played Destiny, so I can't really speak on that too much. But that was a big thing that I always wondered, is like, why Halo Infinite? Why name it that? Why name it that of all things? And why not Halo 6 Infinite? Why Halo Infinite?
Well, they did mention, and this was, this was several years back, that they were going to move away from numbered Halo titles. And I thought they were going to do that with Halo 5, hence the Halo 5 Guardians tag.
Right.
So I think they used Halo 5 is kind of the go-between. We're going to get rid of the numbered Halo games.
Also, I like that.
But we're going to do this. Yeah, we're going to do this middle game here to where people get used to having a named Halo game instead of a numbered Halo game. And I kind of like the idea of that because I think Halo Infinite will appeal to more new players than Halo 6.
Halo 6 kind of keeps anybody's bad taste of Halo 5 in their mouth. And also, as you get into Halo 6, 7, or 8, it really looks like you're milking the franchise.
Right. I mean, are they even going to release another Halo game after Infinite?
As long as they can make money, I'm sure they will.
It's less about the...
Halo Infinite 2.
There will always be major version upgrades. You have it with operating systems and software, so the next major upgrade would probably be the next game.
Halo Finite.
Yeah.
It's also less to do with people's perceptions of the game franchise being milked. It's more of a perception of the game's too involved. I haven't played the first 5 Halo games. Am I going to understand this? Halo has
that's
a reputation
kind of what I was getting
of
to.
being connected narratively, unlike, say, Final Fantasy, where each Final Fantasy is a standalone thing. You can jump into any title. With Halo, you jump on Halo 4, you might need some explaining.
Yeah, and they're all so different, too. Like, they're all so different, in my opinion, in regards to how they play, in regards to stories and stuff. Besides, like, 1, 2, 3, obviously, their continuity is goes together.
Well, the fact this is going to be sort of a fresh, anybody can jump in, I think, is really good, because that's what 4 really should have been, too. And I think in some ways it is, and other ways it's not.
Well, it's easy to jump in if you read the extended lore.
Yeah, you only need to read 3 books to understand what the going on. Like that's a great entry point.
I don't want to have to read a book to understand what's going on in the video game.
Right, but in one aspect, that 4 is kind of you're in a basic sense, you're just with your AI buddy on an alien world and all sorts of threats. But I think, unfortunately, it quickly unravels into like, who are these people? Who are these people? Who are these people? Instead of being able to tell you organically through them. But in the same way, Halo 4 is almost like a semi-reboot, almost in the way that Force Awakens was.
The funny thing is that with Halo 4, even if you read the books, you still didn't know what the fuck was going on. It's like, it's a didact. Which one? What? Like, that was confusing.
That's how I take 5.
I mean, that's how I was confused with 5, because I never read the books, so when I played 5, I was very lost.
I read the books for 5, and I was wondering why aren't these characters anything like the books and the movies they were in?
I was trying to
Like,
figure
exactly.
people.
Imagine just a casual player jumping into Halo 5.
Got a voice actor with personality for Locke, step 1.
But can you imagine for a non-fiction reader jumping into Halo 5 and there's like 8 main characters? It's like, what? Where's Master Chief most of the game? Like, that's gonna be a terrible experience for a new player.
Especially after all, like the marketing and stuff.
With Halo Infinite, the one thing if they want to make it a game that anybody can pick up, they've got to pay off Halo 5 somewhere. And it can't be in Halo Infinite.
You mean the cliffhanger and unfinished story? No, it's just ignore that, sure.
They've got a lot of loose ends from Halo 5. They need to finish up somewhere before Halo Infinite starts.
I'm sure the comic from Halo 4. I'm sure the comic will wrap it up really, really well for you.
Yeah, except for it's set before Halo 5.
Well, Bad Blood is going to take place directly after the events of Halo 5. So it'll be interesting to see. When does that come out? Because that'll be interesting to see.
That's coming out in June.
Throw in a book.
This is June.
2 weeks.
Yeah.
On the 26th.
That book is going to be shown from Buck's perspective.
If worst comes to worst, you can always just throw Cortana into the sun. Job done. Move on.
Got absorbed by the domain.
It's like,
what I'm saying is, if they truly want to make Halo Infinite a anybody can play game, they need to explain all this other stuff outside that game, or the people that buy it thinking it's a new independent game are going to be confused.
See, I don't know how. I don't know how they're going to pull that one off.
So, I don't know if 343 can do this, but I would believe it can be done, making the game in such a way where if you haven't read the external fiction, you can get the main concepts of what's going on in the game, but if you've read the external fiction, then it gives you that much more in-depth completeness of the franchise. And I think that's doable. It might be really tricky, but it should be able to be done where there's certain other small facets of the game, and maybe the open world facet to it, if it is an open world game, might attribute to that. So people that want to just run through the mainline story, they can do that, but people that want to explore and maybe pick up some other lore bits can help fill out the rest of the franchise that's been built up by the comics and the books.
Wait, getting lore for the game itself? Jeez, that's an alien concept.
Also, you could have a codex. You did it in Halo 2, Halo Wars 2, and it worked out well.
You could try. You could try going to the website to find out the lore for the game, and I hear that works out very well for you.
The Halo channel. There you go.
Destiny burn.
Yeah, you'll have to type a code into the Halo channel. You'll have to match up these obscure shapes in order to unlock the story.
Well, that was Waypoint. That wasn't even the Halo channel.
Yeah, the Halo Waypoint app back in the day.
I still prefer that because it didn't crash my console.
The Halo channel is kind of abandoned anyway.
Yeah.
Sadly. It was buggy and glitchy and slow as heck.
I mean, the only reason I have it installed on my Xbox is because of recording for the Master Chief Collection, because terminals are on the Halo channel.
Didn't you get to watch that doc show for a while on there exclusively?
Oh, Nightfall.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was worth it.
Actually, but on Nightfall they had the second stories, which were legitimately good and the best part of Nightfall.
Yeah, second stories were good. Yes, let's give credit where it's due.
Yes.
Like, why isn't
the secondary story was better than the actual story? It's still better than what they did with Fall of Reach, the animated
that was
show.
I didn't care for that.
Anyway.
Halo Infinite.
Yeah.
Infinite digressions.
So I think we've covered the art piece pretty well. I guess before you move on to it, just the open world aspect of it, do you guys think that was mostly just for the product or the game engine demo itself, or do you think we're going to see more of an open world type game with Infinite?
I think it's probably
interesting at wanting to do some sort of open world stuff with a lot of that early Halo 5 concept, and ODST was also in that sort of spirit, and even Reach in some ways was a lot about having environments and revisiting them.
Someone mentioned this on the Twitch chat really early on in the podcast, but the trailer reminded, this is Elite Pajamas, reminded him of the CE reveal. Just the open
original
environment. Yeah. The original reveal with the open world.
Rest in peace, Blind Wolves and Thorn Beasts.
Those early Halo builds weren't as much open world. Like, from people I know who've gotten their hands on them, those games are really just tech demos, and that there's no game there. It's just environments you run around in.
Sure.
They never really got things far enough. But even in this
you could say the same thing here. This is a game engine tech demo. This isn't the actual necessarily what the game is going to be, or we might not see any of these environments specifically in Halo Infinite. I mean, the name's there, so it kind of is reason to believe that
Bungie was originally developing Halo CE. They were going to develop it to be an open world shooter.
Well, it depends on when you want to talk about it. Is it a first-person shooter or is it a third-person shooter?
Right.
Like, is it a third-person
their
shooter?
original concept for the game, they were looking to build an open world shooter, in which it quickly changed to the rail shooter that it became. I can see Halo Infinite being more open world than your traditional Halo game, but I still think it's going to be somewhat like a rail shooter similar to ODST.
I think the biggest indication that it would be an open world game is why else are they spending all this time building a totally new engine otherwise? Like they've gotten through, they've scrapped and rewritten tons of stuff from the old Halo engine in 4 and 5, and Bungie did the same.
Well, Halo 5 came out on its own engine.
Well, 5 is still running on a version of the Halo 4 engine. It's the most heavy modification since Halo 2. The two biggest jumps in Halo engines were 1 to 2, and then 4 to 5. 5 is really like torn apart and glued back together.
But I mean, you have all that, and the technical debt will catch up to you at some point, but also game development is expensive enough as it is. Like you don't just, all right, we're going to scrap everything and try and have to rebuild, especially when you're talking about Halo, when people talk about, well, if it feels like Halo, the controls, etc.
Yeah, well, that was honestly my biggest takeaway. They're switching to new engine to me was more interesting than anything else they showed. So I like to dive into this stuff.
They could also just simply reach the limits of what the engine can do.
I mean, I just don't think they really have a full understanding of that original engine or what all the legacy code is. Like, it's got to be incredibly complicated.
Well, that's what's come out from the Master Chief Collection updates. Yeah, they have like, and this tag here got mislabeled and no one understood what that did and stuff like that. It's like, oh my God. I mean, I've dealt with other people's markup
code comments.
It's terrible.
People.
Yeah. Well, yeah, but except you're like, all right, well, we got to get this to the depot in 3 hours. You're not going to write comments and stuff. It's a terrible, terrible development system, and everyone's just building on top of it like fossil layers.
Yeah, and they don't have any of the original engine devs at 343 either. So even if there's stuff in there, they don't necessarily understand why it's that certain way too.
Was the engine originally specifically made for Halo, the Havoc engine?
Well, Havoc is just the physics.
Or sorry, what's is it
the Blam?
No, Blam. Oh, it is Blam. Okay.
Blam is what people call it, although I don't think it's ever really had a formal name.
So the engine was specifically created for Halo, right?
I believe so.
Well, it's based on what is it, Pathways into Darkness or whatever it is, and then it became the Halo engine.
So they're going with a complete new engine here, probably tossing some of the old engine code that can't be updated easily with something that's a little more industry standard, would be my guess.
Yeah, well, I know, I mean, like I said, everybody in the industry is basically trained on Unity and UE4 and their pipelines, and those are modern engines designed for today. It's not trying to retrofit, all this old code and legacy systems. I mean, they have access to all that old source code, so hopefully they have enough there to understand how to get the aiming and stuff to feel right. Another nice thing in that trailer as I was rewatching it is that the warthog bouncing across the ground is pretty nice looking. Like, it looks very Halo-esque.
Like that bounce. Acceptable bounce.
It goes well with
Masterz. And put that on the back of the box.
Well, it goes well with the song Microsoft was playing before and after the show, something about booty bouncing or whatever, which I had to do a double take when I heard it for the first time. I'm like, they're really like playing this right now?
I was a little unsure why they were playing that song, especially with when they knew families were probably watching with kids.
Well, luckily the kids probably wouldn't understand the song, so well, at least
the kids are probably singing that already. They don't even if they don't understand it. Like,
man, possibly. I don't want to know what I would have gotten to as a kid if I had an iPhone at that age.
Yeah, they have the internet. They're the ones writing all those Urban Dictionary definitions.
I love those kids. Those things are hilarious.
So other aspects of the trailer, going back and watching it after everything was done and knowing it was Halo, did anyone else go back and watch and see all the blue streaks into the sky and finally realize that those were the discharge beams?
Yeah.
Well, yeah, you can see the Halo 1 towers in the distance in the 343 art style. There's also some cool Sentinels in there, like new Sentinel design as well. Actually, you know what's in there in that scene with Under the Water? You can see what looks to be the Sentinel Retriever from Halo Wars 2 in there.
That's kind of what it looked like. It looked like a Sentinel that was maybe just a little bit different in design, but seemed like one of those Retriever.
Yeah, at first I thought it was a knight, but you can see it has mechanical arms instead of biological arms. Which shouldn't make any sense when I say that, because why would the knights have biological arms? But you know, they do.
Because they have tiny arms.
T-Rex arms?
Also, it's cool to see like actual wildlife and stuff. Although I honestly, part of the reason why I thought it was Connectimals and not Halo is because since when is Halo going to have rhinos and, what were they, gazelle or whatever?
Gazelle or deer, antelope, yeah.
In high res, they definitely have more details, but
kill an antelope to get your health back.
That'll be one of the ways that you can use the, what's the one skull called?
Cowbell?
No.
Kill the cow.
A new use for cowbell. There we go. You gotta eat your health back. Ooh.
That's funny though. Yeah, the animals are interesting. The Sentinels are interesting.
There's the Morse
water
code
reflection
in the in terms of things people have picked out. There's the Morse code, which suggests that this takes place on installation of 7 Zeta Hilo.
Actually, if you look at I'm looking through the video right now, and that scene with the Sentinel Retriever, it's shining the light on something crashed underneath the ocean that's made out of metal and like broken and mangled. I wonder what that is.
Maybe it's the ship from Halo 5 or whatever. Remember when they all like get in the ship and they just leave? Maybe that's it. I don't know though.
It's actually his friend. He was looking for him. His buddy, Jim
from
the
the
Sentinel.
Office. Yeah.
Overall, this is just pretty though. I do have to say the engine cranks out some really beautiful things. I don't think I would have expected to see Halo look this pretty.
No, it looks
good.
Like
Battlefront 2, like levels of quality.
No, it's gorgeous. I would literally eat off the Chief's armor. I mean, like I have the HD, like high res screenshot of that shot where he's holding the helmet. I mean, it's just
from the press kit, or
yeah, and it's just the cleanest thing I've ever seen. I mean, I don't know, like the whole trailer was beautiful.
Yeah.
Speaking of Chief, I mean, I'm looking forward to it, but however they decide to explain him going back to the old armor after for so long trying to pass off the transition in Halo 4, but and really in Halo 4, it's just the new look for the old armor. You know, you're not supposed to look into nanobots or, you know, whatever else the community's
Well, at one point, it does make me happier that they admitted at one point you were going to get the suit. It like everything else, they didn't have time for it. It's like, all right, we've got the one suit. We're going to use that, including for the cinematics, etc.
Have they said that at some point? Because I've never heard.
It's come up somewhere. I'm sure Frankie talked about it or something like that.
But now, after it being like, yeah, it's just, you know, artistic difference between games, now they're going to be like, well, he went back to an old suit. Then people are going to look at 4 and be like, but how do you get the new suit?
Well, but in Halo 5, what's confusing is that in Halo 5, he actually gets a Mark 6 Gen 2 suit. So at that point, it is canonically a different suit that looks different.
So now he would technically go back to his Halo 4 suit. Slash 3 suit.
Yeah,
I mean, there's no winning with it. It's just going to be funny to watch everybody's reactions, and people spent endless hours trying to justify.
Well, I mean, there were all the people when they were doing team go back to the original art style. There is the fictional conceit now of like, yeah, you go back to some old stuff that you have because you weren't I mean, it was funny because Halo 5 was the first game where the ridiculous number of armor permutations started making sense because they just said, oh yeah, like there are all these crazy third parties just building suits to like try and get government contracts. But the idea is, oh, well, with Cortana wrecking everything, you're just going to go back to what you have on hand. And we've got a bunch of this old stuff lying around, so we might as well use it.
I thought he was just going to go back to the old armor, so Cortana? Wow. Cortana would just would recognize him. He's like, oh my god, it's the Halo 2, Halo 3 chief. I'll just chill out now. That's kind of what I'm
really...
Go to your happy place, Cortana.
Yeah.
Go to your
I'm really curious about those thrusters, though. Like, they're gonna, if they want to keep advanced mobility, they're gonna have to somehow integrate those thrusters into the old armor design.
I could see them. I could see them taking them out.
Yeah, I was gonna say they might take out the whole thruster.
I don't
mechanic.
know. It worked pretty well for.
I could see them. I could see them taking out everything except for sprint.
I would agree.
I don't think sprint's going anywhere. We'll see if they touch the other armor abilities.
Sprint's just such an integral part in first-person shooter games now. I don't see it coming out of Halo.
Well, I think that the whole issue with sprint is, like people have talked about, well, you just boost the base speed as fast as sprint. No, it's the idea of going as fast. Like, I remember being the kid, like, all right, I've got to backtrack across this entire level, and man, I wish I could go faster. Like, even if you cranked up the speed, I would still want to go faster. And so that's what sprint does psychologically. Like, that's why it's in all these games, is because it's so much better to feel like you're going faster.
Well, I mean, you're in a mechanized suit.
You to stay alive.
But if you're aiming a gun and you're running, you're going to be able to run faster when your arms are actually swinging. That's the whole purpose of swinging your arms, is so that you can actually maintain balance and go faster. So that makes sense that you should be able to sprint faster when you're actually not aiming your gun.
I mean, logistics of it aside, they seem to have doubled down on sprint, and the advanced mobility is a central thing that they like. And that worked well in 5. And I know a lot of people don't like sprint in Halo 5 and all the armor abilities, and I'm one of the people who obviously really likes the way classic Halo plays. But even I have to admit, if Halo 5 were just the same mobility as every other Halo, it probably wouldn't have kept my interest as long as it did. At least it's something different, even if it's not better than other stuff. So for them to go back to classic, I'm not really sure how well that would work for.
I could see them doing it though, especially with what Call of Duty World at War did, and Black Ops 4, with them reverting back to original.
Black Ops 4 isn't Black Ops 4 also still crazy with advanced mobility and stuff?
Not that I know. Pretty sure there isn't.
I haven't played the CODs in a while.
I mean, I haven't either. I just watched the trailer recently, but they were saying it's boots on the ground.
I can see them getting rid of some of the abilities, like ground pound, and possibly thruster, but honestly, from day one of playing campaign in Halo CE, I'm like, why can I not sprint? I am a super soldier. I am wearing a mechanized suit. And I can't keep up with a warthog?
But then wouldn't that just get rid of the purpose of a warthog if you could just sprint?
Well, you have the turret with infinite ammo.
You have a turret with infinite ammo? I mean,
heck, if I'm a super soldier with armor, I don't need a turret. I'll just run in there, just destroy them. Ground pound them, maybe?
Turret.
Yeah,
but
I need a turret.
You get my point. From the very beginning, I've always wanted to have sprint in the game.
Well, it's funny because Halo 2 made a specific note of really early on them saying you can do it because they knew people were tired of having to go at the same pace when backtracking. Like, if you look at the really, really early Halo 2 interviews where they talk up sprint and shooting out the light bulbs and the levels and stuff like that, wall peeking, all of that really came out of, like, wouldn't this be cool to have in Halo 1 because of X, Y, or Z? Now that whole discussion is sort of contorted because people associate what Halo 2 sprint would have been with modern sprint, when really it was there to serve a different function from everything that they've said. But I mean, I'm a pro sprint person. I mean, the latest builds of SPv3 all have a new sprint system in it, and we also have Spartan Charge there too. So that's like almost what I exclusively use now, just because it's a lot more fun to be able to backtrack and explore areas and get the cover when you're not just waddling like a duck as everybody shoots at you.
Right.
Yeah, I hope they keep some of the mobility. because I don't want to see the player movement slow down. Yeah, that's a lot of the reason I don't play a lot of the older games is because of the mobility that Halo 5 has.
A lot of it hasn't aged well. ODST and 1, I would say, probably aged the best, and that's just because you feel like you're going faster with the wider FOV. But 2 and 3 and Reach, I feel like a snail every time I play.
I don't know. I
Especially 3. Yeah.
I've been having a blast on NCC lately. But I'm a humongous like classic Halo fan. Like I don't want sprint or anything, but that's me.
You know, in multiplayer, if the maps are designed without sprint, that's okay. I mean, in multiplayer, I never really cared if I had sprint or not. You know, the only place I really cared about it is in campaign. Do I use it in multiplayer? Yes, because you have to, because that's what the maps are designed for.
Yeah, there's definitely a big separation between the usage of sprint and campaign and multiplayer. Who knows? Maybe Halo Infinite will solely be a PvE game.
Hell, it may not even have multiplayer. Who knows?
Well, I think they released some information saying already. I think it's on someone in my Discord posted it. Oh no, never mind. They posted it from Waypoint where it says doesn't have an amount of players for it, or co-op, or online multiplayer, or online co-op, which is obviously placeholder because if it's gonna have some form of PvE in it, whether it's co-op or not. But honestly, I could see them spinning off PvP stuff into something else because it's really not that popular in 5 compared to everything else. It's the casual stuff in 5 which is the most popular. I think it's by an overwhelming majority. I mean, I'd have to find the last time they listed the playlist popularity. But I remember it's like 3 different Warzone variants before Team Slayer, and before that it's like Action Sack or Castle Wars or something like that.
I don't know. Super Fiesta is pretty popular.
That's what I'm thinking of. Super Fiesta, yeah.
Small little tangent. Is it one of the 343 employees?
That's PvP. Granted, it's random weapons, but that's still PvP.
Well, right. I'm not talking about like competitive Halo multiplayer. It seems to sort of be tapering off as people like the PvE stuff more. And they obviously wanted people doing a lot more PvE in Halo 5 with their investment in co-op and the squad system and campaign. Just too bad that the campaign didn't thrill.
Yeah, it's too bad the campaign sucked.
That's what I was trying to get at without being as mean. But, you know, people just don't have interest in playing Halo 5 campaign. I don't think it's because people don't like campaign games or co-op. I think Destiny proves that.
Small little tangent there. One of the 343 employees confirmed on Twitter that, reconfirmed on Twitter that the game's going to have split screen again.
Yeah, and LAN support. It was Bonnie Ross
so we know it's going to have
that.
LAN support, split screen, a beta.
Yes, a beta.
Well, yeah, they said they're going.
Well, they said they were going to do the.
Well, they said they're going to do the flights. Yeah.
See, I wonder if they'll do something like Fortnite, where it'll be like in beta, and then eventually it'll be a paid game or something.
They do game preview model, or whatever.
That sounds like a free-to-play model. No, they're not giving up day one sales for that.
Not Microsoft.
I don't know. I think it'd be smart because they really do need if they want to be top of the charts again, you know, they're not going to be able to compete when you have so many games that are taking those spots. Like, hold on, I have it up right now. Like, of the games that rank above 5 right now, and obviously 5 has been out 3 years now, but you got Fortnite, PUBG, Roblox, Rocket League, Minecraft, and those are all the and Smite, which is right above Halo 5, and those are all games that are either like half price games or free to play.
It's interesting. That's actually a pretty good observation.
Yeah, there's really no way to top of the charts without it.
Yeah, free to play stuff is definitely big right now. I mean, I never would have played Fortnite, honestly. Yeah, otherwise, I mean, if I'm being completely honest.
So it's free.
Yeah.
I don't play Fortnite. I don't play PUBG either. And I got a code setting in my email box for it too.
Amazon Prime keeps on giving me all these Fortnite emotes that I cannot use.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just think it's crazy. NBA 2K18 is more popular than not just Halo, but Call of Duty and Destiny and Overwatch. And
Sports games are huge. Like FIFA is just such a juggernaut in Europe. It's like bizarre.
Yeah.
Don't touch sports games. They have ridiculous audiences, and they buy $60 rehashes every year. Don't mess with those people.
You have to get the
you gotta have the latest players.
Because I've never heard of anybody like at school or college or work ever be like, yeah, man, the new NBA game is pretty cool. It's like, oh yeah, like I can't only imagine, but the conversation would be like, so what's different than last year's?
Actually, you know what? Do you know what
the rosters?
You know what's propping up those sports games? It's the fantasy DLC where they get fantasy cards and basically loot boxes for like a separate mode in the game. Every single EA sports game has a fantasy mode where you can buy loot boxes and spend thousands of dollars getting a virtual stupid man helmet. You know what I mean? It's better than the other guy's man helmet thing. And they make ridiculous amounts of money on their fantasy stuff.
That's how it works.
Yeah, I could never understand sports games, whether it be football, basketball, soccer, baseball, golf.
I understand them more actually in the ones
Quidditch
that
for the original Xbox.
I just play Halo.
It's Quidditch.
I play Halo and Dota.
I've played too much Halo, probably, honestly.
Well, let's get into some of the Easter eggs that are in this gameplay engine demo. So I think the first big thing that people started looking at was the Morse code. I think that was the first kind of egg in the trailer, and that has been decoded.
The Fight for Her poster was probably the first one I think popped up, wasn't it?
I thought the radio was before the Pelican.
Yeah, it is in the tent. Yeah, you're right.
So that's the first one. That was the first one I started looking at least. That one has been decoded. So we actually have a description on that one, and I had it a second ago. It is SOS Zeta Halo GRD, and in military GRD can stand for guard. So SOS Zeta Halo Guard, possibly. Zeta
Guardian?
Halo being...
Ooh.
Maybe.
I hope not.
Zeta Halo, for those that may know a little bit about their Halo history, is Installation 07. It is the only Halo that was repurposed from the original array of 12 Halos. I forget what the word is for that, David or Danny, if you want to help me with that. The synthesis array?
I don't know. I never say those words out loud.
You just know what they look like, and you know what they mean.
Yeah, like you use it, and then you have to speak about it, and you're like, oh.
Sounds better in your head than it does coming out of your mouth.
So basically, it's the only Halo that was made in the greater arc that survived to the modern time, essentially, isn't it?
Gotcha. So is that the Halo ring that we see at the end of Halo 5?
That would be
That's
the implication.
The other big question.
That's Installation 09.
At the end of Halo 5? Like when Cortana's like humming or whatever? Oh, okay.
Because
you don't know.
Yeah, because there's...
The Guardian shows up on Installation 09 and Halo Wars 2, so it could be. On the other hand, we end up on this one, so who knows? It could be either. A lot
of people have come to the conclusion that the Halo that we saw at the end of Halo Wars 2 is the same Halo that we saw at the end of Halo 5.
Huh.
That is the current theory.
Has anybody identified the land masses, or is there not enough resolution to... Like, the continent should be in the same... Or you should be able to get an idea.
Have we seen Zeta Halo before? I guess we've seen it in the Halo 3.
Zeta Halo is actually supposed to be completely shrouded in cloud.
No. They're
in the original.
They also retconned that, did they not? Sure. Yeah.
Since when?
That was what people were going off in Halo 3, but not... Because, did they end up on it, or they discover it in Hunters in the Dark?
They go there. Remember, there's one of the deer, that one of the dudes called Vanessa. It's like the deer was in the Hunters in the Dark.
They're starting, Hunters in the Dark starts on Installation 07.
Yeah. And that leaves,
Sorry, because I'm looking through the trailer myself. Is there anything out there about those symbols on the wall?
No, that hasn't been decoded yet.
Some of it looks Greek, but...
There's not much to go on, in all fairness. Like, unless you have something to go on, they could be expecting anything. One symbol's repeated by the looks of it, but there's not much.
And another thing, too, is, like, this trailer might be literally nothing. Because, like, I mean, like, the Halo 5 trailer with the Guardian, I mean, the Guardian was completely redesigned and everything. So, I mean... We never, right. We never even
poncho
saw
Chief.
Yeah, we never saw Chief in a poncho. So I mean, everything in this trailer that we see now
we got
could
some
literally never show up in the game.
We got some artwork of Poncho Chief after Halo 5.
Somewhere there's someone like just huddled in the corner, like, no, that scene's still gonna happen. That scene's still gonna happen.
Yeah.
It's still canon.
Like the
well, they
Marines.
do show some desert footage in here.
Yeah, that's true. There's that.
And
that,
they have something heavy
moment.
walking past the tent where the radio is.
Oh, it can't be a Guardian because Guardians don't walk.
Could be a mech.
You know what's interesting? In that tent, they have the radio, and that looks like it's such like not something you would ever see in Halo as for a communicator device.
I mean, there were some in Halo 3, like in the you can even forge them. I'm pretty sure.
What, radios? I guess.
Yeah.
I don't know. This is kind of weird to see it now, especially given that 343's really kind of taken their art a bit more seriously than Bungie.
Yeah.
In some
They featured it up.
To see like an old-fashioned like radio. Another reason why I didn't think this was a Halo trailer at first.
I mean, I think a big reason we didn't think it was a Halo trailer
it does
because
kind
there's
of
no
fit
mechanics.
with the storyline of Halo 5, where some things, all the Guardians are knocking out power to all this stuff. So some of the, they may be going old school for some of this stuff, like old transistor radios.
Yeah, but older radios.
To the piece of string attached to them.
Older radios are the easiest to jam. Like not sure old analog stuff. You could.
Shh. Doesn't make any sense.
So according to Halopedia, Installation 07 is intact under joint UNSC and Swords of Sang Helios quarantine.
Yeah, there's the human people there, like in Hunters in the Dark. They start there, then leave, so we know there's a presence there if it's the same one that's been established already.
Another egg that kind of reveals that we're looking at a little bit distant into the future is that Pelican dashboard scene where we get May 27th, 2560. So I know it's about 19, 20 months after the events of Halo 5.
That's really cool because it actually makes there be some sort of stakes to it. Can I talk about Avengers Infinity War and rumors for the next movie or no?
I mean, they have like
No.
they have
Spoilers for a totally unrelated media franchise.
Well, no. It's related.
It's not totally unrelated. They both have infinite in the name, kind of.
Well, no, some people have been saying that the next one is going to take place up to 5 years after this, so there'll actually be consequences. It's not like at the end of Infinity War, they instantly undo everything. Like, there's going to have to be a consequence to their failures, so if they do Halo 5 2 years in the future, Halo 6 2 years after 5, Chief and the Galaxy will have to live with whatever has happened under Cortana's rule for a period of time.
So it's a perfect utopia and everyone's happy and there's no more fighting and everything's great?
There's still a few kinks to work out. You can't just judge it by a couple years after. There's still a lot more people to kill and, plan this.
I mean, according to this, there are freaking Marines already on this like ring. So it's like, or they were like arriving on the ring. But I mean, I don't know. It seems like they're already established on this ring. They got tents set up. They got radio frequencies up and everything. So I mean,
their stuff is kind of beat up.
Yeah,
like tours in the tent. Actually, one of the crates says INF 02 on it. I guess for Infinity.
Oh,
like in the
interesting.
scene right before I'm going through the whole thing at 25%.
Good find.
And there's the poster in the Pelican as well, and we know it says "Fight for Her" on the top. But has anyone been able to quite get what it says on the second line?
I'm looking at it now. Hold on.
I see like maybe four, like
Zoom.
four forever or
Enhance.
forever.
Enhance.
It says tomorrow. Yeah, tomorrow forever.
Tomorrow and forever.
I don't see an and. I just see.
There's
I see. Hold on. I'm looking at it. I see a M-O, then what looks like a V, but there's a speck of dust in front of it, an R, an O, and what's a W, and then F-O-R. Yeah, it has to be tomorrow forever. Yeah, there's definitely a T that starts it.
And it looks like, it kind of looks like it might be a picture of Earth in a defensive grid, maybe? I'm not sure.
Earth is down there, and you can definitely make out the orbital stations.
That's kind of what it looks like.
Are there any of those left?
I'm looking at this, the 4K video on a 43-inch screen, so I don't think it gets much better than looking at it like this.
Is that an old poster then? Like an ancient old poster in Universe time?
Maybe.
Also, it's kind of interesting, but one of the Marines is hurt.
Yeah.
So he got.
I saw that.
Yeah. So they either crash landed and he got hurt, or they got into an engagement with something.
That seems very quintessential for a Halo trailer, though, where you have a Marine limping.
He tried to pet
For some
one of the
reason.
local
He
wildlife.
just might need a hug, guys. Don't judge.
And of course, the smoke that they throw is orange, like the visor of Chief.
Okay, now you're reading too much into it.
Yeah.
Could just be orange smoke. What was the smoke in? What was the smoke in Reach?
But look, there's a lot of green and orange in this trailer. So,
well, because green and orange go together,
just like Chief. Just like Chief.
Complementary color theory, man.
All about the color wheels, dude.
That's why Transformers is just teal and orange everywhere.
Oh god, I have flashbacks to that Halo 3 cover, the blue and orange. Oh
yeah, where he walks, and like same thing with the trailer too, how he walks out of the smoke.
I just hung that poster too in my basement. Yep, the Halo 3. That's the biggest poster I have. It's a 27 by 40.
I gotta watch that trailer now, right now.
Well, speaking of Halo 3, they freaking threw in the Halo 3 trailer music in there at the very end too.
That was a horrible thing.
Finish the fight.
Yeah.
Are we actually gonna finish the fight to do some new music? I'm sure he's not doing much else these days anyway. Like, sure.
What is he doing now anyway?
Enjoying the royalties.
And trolling them on Twitter.
So did anyone else in the Pelican cockpit buy the poster see that kind of like, I don't know, it kind of looked like a glass camera screen looking thing? So it's just to the right of the poster, and I think I could just be making this up, but it almost looks like there could be a face in there. So it's just to the left of the left seat and to the right of the poster up top. And maybe it's just reflections, because one of the things that we notice in here, and especially given off in the Chief helmet look, is the real-time reflections.
Yeah, I love that reflection in his helmet.
That was so cool seeing the troop warthog.
Yeah. I just noticed that. I was like, man, this thing is really just sharp. You can see it like clear as day.
Yeah, it actually looked wrong to me. It's one of those things it's like you've gotten so used to, especially going back to CE, where you just get like this blurry like splotch of something in his helmet.
Static rotating.
Like, because I don't even remember. Like, I don't think Halo 3 ended up having real-time reflections except for certain scenes, like one scene or whatever in the storm. Like, so they showed that off, but it was obviously not used for most of it.
Oh, is that where
So
he like
weird.
walks up and he sees all the ships flying and stuff?
Yeah.
Yeah.
It definitely wasn't in the proper gameplay at all, so you'd never really use it or see it.
Yeah, I mean, normally you don't need to see your own visor.
Yeah, for some reason.
Yeah. Laird brings up a good point too. Fighting for her, is it for Earth or for Cortana? But I think it's Earth just because of the Earth in the background.
I mean, I don't know. Cortana might have been reusing old propaganda posters. Like, this seems a great idea.
Wouldn't there just be a giant Cortana face printed on the poster? Like, that'd be disturbing. Fight for me or something?
Fight for the mantle.
It looks like Earth to me.
Yeah. It's a nice ODST callback.
And then the date was really a nice drop. Anything else in here? Easter egg wise, I don't think we've really determined yet. We talked about the Constructor Sentinel, the Marines, the real-time.
There's a vague squint, maybe mantle of responsibility symbol on the continent land on the Halo. Kinda, maybe.
Like at the end of the trailer part?
Yeah. Just before it flashes the daylight. It's not fully.
Right. I got the 4K.
Yeah, it's not fully the mantle of responsibility symbol, but
yeah, it's got pieces of it, but it's also intersecting with the water, so it's not fully there.
Yeah, it gives you the idea of it, kind of. You look and go, it looks vaguely familiar.
Yeah, I do like the pan from the running warthog to the mountains, and just seeing all that generated in engine was just it took me aback. It's so pretty.
It's pretty.
It's so pretty. And then the slow pan up with Halo Infinity coming in, and then the change in contrast to where it goes to blue logo and the outline of the Halo.
Oh man, I somehow muted myself again, and I've been thinking I've been interrupting this whole time when you guys haven't been able to hear me. So stop me if I actually did say some of this. But that scene with the camera going up to the mountain, that's all seems to be dynamically lit. If this is all in engine, they're actually lighting these environments with a dynamic light source for changes of time of day and stuff like that.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if that was like supposed to be some broader thematic thing about like, oh, well, you'll be in this open world, change time, or it's just like cower in fear of our engine's abilities to dynamically light this scene.
Well, if you look at the press kit, one of the files is named Ring Knight and Key Art Knight.
Hang on, I'm going to it. I downloaded them earlier. Ring Knight, yep.
But also in that Pelican, the structure of the cockpit is in the old Halo Legacy design, where it's more angular rather than the futuristic bubble.
You say futuristic, but it's the gunship in Halo 4 and 5 is totally a old Soviet attack helicopter.
Yeah, well, whatever. Well, I guess I mean it, but as in it's the new style.
Yeah.
The futuristic 343 futuristic.
It's less
anyway,
angular.
It's using the old, more angular Legacy design. And I would probably said something else too, but I forget what it was. Assume I don't mute myself. I'll tell you guys later.
Is it safe to assume that the constructor sentinel underwater is looking at a troop hog? I mean, that's what it looks like to me.
It could be. It's a sentinel retriever, I believe they call it.
Yeah, but the retrievers are definitely huge. So unless there's some crazy scale, it's probably something smaller.
It could also be the perspective.
Yeah.
Also, you don't really get a fair sense of scale in Halo Wars 2 just because it's an RTS.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's definitely a Warthog. You can see the wheel, you can see the center bar structure,
the crossbar,
the roll cage.
Yep.
Yeah, and then you can see the bed. It's missing its gasoline tanks and stuff.
You mean fusion water or something or other?
It's water.
Whatever.
It's water.
It's
so I mean, if that's the case, that's probably the Marines Warthog, and then that's why they're on foot, and that's why they pop the smoke, and then the Warthog we see driving is Chief.
I wouldn't put together a
really
narrative.
Ran on water, would they explode into fire?
I wouldn't put together a narrative for this. Like, there's nothing.
But we must.
Any of these scenes are connected in any way. I wouldn't go there.
You must.
You must.
I'm pretty sure that giant thing you keep talking about is actually just the Marines walking, because if you look at the shadow on the beach, you can see two figures walking upright, then another figure that's more closely together with two.
Well, there's definitely something that seems
I was assuming that was the Marines.
non-human.
Well,
for
right,
the
but
tent.
then it's this thing kind of follows the story of the Marines going through this environment.
Maybe.
You know, you were saying, is there like a mech or something out there walking by the tent? I imagine it's the.
Well, just because the sound that was there.
Well,
yeah, it's whatever's walking past the tent is heavy. It's heavy enough that it's shaking the ground.
Could be Chief.
Like I said.
One thing, I'm kind of touched on this earlier when I was talking about art design stuff, while we're still going over like eggs in the video, is they're using the Halo 4-5 battle rifle and they don't have any scope attachments on them, which is sort of be expected because the way it works in 5 is all those scope attachments are configured as an actual attachment to the weapon and not part of the base model that they would use. So I wonder, I mean, I would expect anyway for them to retain all the weapon customization and keep most of their art assets for first person. Although I hope they get rid of the shotgun, because that's the only thing I really strongly dislike. So just kind of interesting. And also in that scene you can see they're wearing the Halo 4 and 5 helmets for the Marines too.
Even if they aren't finished doing their own art, they should probably just copy and paste in the older stuff as placeholders for tech demo.
Maybe, but I would think they're kind of far along that they would.
Yeah, it looks different enough from the 4 or 5 that I can see why people thought it looked more like the Reach guys.
Yeah,
looks more like the Reach
the
BDU.
shoulder pads are different, but it's also hard because there's so many variations on the Halo 4 and 5 Marines. It's like insane. Like there's probably about like 30 or maybe 30, possibly even 40 variants between the two games.
Yeah, because they just chop them up into pieces and swap them around.
Did
I
anyone
like the
pause?
Halo 4 guys, honestly.
Did anyone pause when the Marines were walking away and dropping the smoke signal at the detail on the cloth weaving?
Yeah, I noticed that. Beautiful.
It's nice.
It's very nice. And then it finishes off with Chief driving the Marines in the Hog, which is pretty cool.
You can see if you look at the Marines armor in that scene with the cloth that the metal texture is lower resolution and a lot more fuzzy and compressed than the rest of the fabric.
They wanted us to look at
it's
the fabric.
Halo 5 all over again. Halo 5 has worse textures than Halo 3.
It's interesting that the Hog, they have looks like a Marine sitting in the passenger, one sitting off the side, and then the two in the back.
Yeah, on the metal, I think they're just trying to give it a matte finish.
Well, right, but if you look at the scratches, it's a little bit more blurry and not as sharp as some of the other stuff.
I do appreciate how they didn't really add motion blur to the video, so you can almost take any frame of this video and make it into a wallpaper.
Oh, well, they knew that we were going to look through this, and
they wanted to make sure it was easy to spot.
Here's a question.
It's also a thing of them being proud of their art. Like, you add motion blur to stuff, you muddy it, it looks worse.
The Marines, after they pop the smoke and they're walking through those ring stone structures, is interesting.
Flashbacks to Halo 2's inscrutable architecture.
And I don't think we have an update on the text yet.
Yeah,
that's still a mystery.
It'll be interesting to see if something pops up, because it's definitely not classic Forerunner glyph. So who knows?
Haven't they hinted at multiple alien races we haven't seen yet at various points? So it could be some generic, not
also
Halo Nightfall race. Let's
rocking in a corner. One day they'll explain who the people who visited in the CEA terminals was. One day they'll explain who was in this ship.
I'm just waiting. Yeah, man. You know what's cool about this is going way back. I remember when Halo 2 was coming out, and everybody was speculating about what was going to happen. They're like, there's animals on Earth, and if the Flood get into the animals, you could have like Flood tigers and like jaguars and rhinos and stuff.
Flood wires.
Flood wires.
Yeah, flood wires. But now we have wildlife on a Halo, and there's flood on the Halos, so...
Well, there's always been wildlife on the Halos. We just never seen it in the game.
Other than the birds.
No, we've seen them in the game. There's UV hints here and there.
Yeah, there's an achievement for running a few over. Well, that was Reach. Never mind, that was Reach. That wasn't Halo.
Only in Halo 2 do you see the birds.
Hey, birds count.
I don't know.
Birds
it's kind of cool that they have wildlife to
true.
make these worlds feel alive. Because there's one criticism I have to say about all the Halo games. It's that the worlds never really feel alive to me.
Yeah.
And granted, some of it's a staple to tech. But I was playing through whatever the Call of Duty is with Kevin Spacey. Because I got it for like $3. And you're in Korea and you're going down the street and you can see like where people eat and like the barber shops and whatever. And I was just like, this feels so much more like a city than anything I've ever seen in a Halo game.
Don't forget that they have real life references to work off as well. Like that's an actual place you go to.
Right, yeah.
Well, and that gets also into the question of, I know they cut the animals partially because, I mean, I'm sure the AI was atrocious, etc. But also because if you kept everything inscrutable and lonely and quiet, it made the flood showing up much more of an impact. So at least in the first game, it made sense that it was so desolate.
Yeah, plus the, just technology at the time. But it's cool to see them putting this level of detail to make the world really feel alive and like a place that's actually occupied, like land, like natural structures, and I don't know. Like this trailer really says to me like this is an actual like living world and not just a.
Well, it feels like we have
going through
actual terrain with mountains and valleys and rivers and lakes. A lot more so than how Halo has kind of, to me, seemed a little bit more artificial in its natural design.
Right. Well, I think there's always been a struggle in Halo between having levels that you can explore and see versus the realism of the environment. If that makes any sense. Like all the geometry you want to be able to walk on, so everything has to form some sort of functional level and can't look artistically pretty.
Don't forget as well about scale as well, fidelity, that like, you couldn't always get that sort of detail in, but at the scale Halo usually operates. Like imagine in Halo 3 with those massive air battles and massive levels, and you want like little butterflies and caterpillars. You ain't gonna get that.
Yeah, I just wonder in like the scene of Chief holding his helmet, how much of that environment, if you were there, you could actually explore, and how much is it before you get a return to battlefield.
Well, they probably didn't put death barriers in a tech demo, but...
Well, no, but I mean, when it comes to an actual game, like how big are they trying to hint that our playable environments can be?
Sure.
Bigger than before, because it seems to be an open world, like literally an open world to explore.
An infinite amount.
Oh, go all the way around the ring?
So you're telling me that'd be cool if you could start on one end and just go all the way around.
I would die for that. If you could actually have 100% rig experience, start at one point and then just return to it.
That actually be
Or
insane.
if someone picks up the overshield, you could grenade them with a chain reaction and launch them to the other side of the ring. Have man cannons that shoot you from one end of the ring to the other.
I do think having 10,000 kilometers of generated ring world would be a rather hefty ask.
Empty experience as well, don't forget, because there'll be a lot of barrenness. You couldn't fill that up with enough interesting content.
Yeah. You would be working on that game for 20 years.
If they're doing it as a service, they could always have areas of the ring that open up to you.
Yeah, are you constant every winter? There we go.
You can now go to the next 10 kilometers. In 200 years, we will finish the ring.
Map loading.
It beats a certain other company's 10-year plan, 200-year plan, you know?
Well, you just get to the edge they haven't finished, and you get Assassin's Creed desynchronized. Actually, Chief canonically did not go to this section at this point.
Oh god, is that a thing?
In Assassin's Creed, yeah, that's how they explain how you can't go to other sections. You desynchronize from your ancestors' memories or whatever.
That's actually quite good. That's quite
good. Well, that's the great conceit about, I mean, the storyline, I think, got trash, and really you just went around in historical things. But the whole idea that you can hand wave everything in the game as just being, well, it's a weird ass simulation that doesn't actually make sense. Like, you die here, oh, it was just a simulation and that wasn't actually what happened, etc. It explains every gameplay conceit pretty well.
Oh god, not just flashbacks. Infinity's promise of doing that. Do you remember with the battle simulations? Oh god, don't do that.
I still like that. Although what I always found, it was actually interesting. People were talking about this on I think the Halo Story subreddit, where people were complaining about the idea of Infinity having a holodeck. And I wanted to explain to people partially, when all your soldiers have cybernetic implants, you can pretty much give them hallucinations. You don't really even need a Star Trek style holodeck.
So they're all like lying together, just sort of thriving and thrashing.
Yeah, like, I mean,
the bed.
You could really just stick them close together and just simulate all the stuff, which of course seems like a terrible glaring security hole. But it seems like something you could do.
Fair point.
How do you suck the fun out of Halo? Jesus. It's an hallucination. Yay, drugs.
It's all just people. They're all just sitting there in their own little VR kiosks, basically.
So, possibilities of an open world game because of just the expanse that we saw in the engine. Do you think we might see a more open world storyline for Halo? And my other question is, Battle Royale?
Boo. I think the problem with Battle Royale is that it's the same problem that to a certain degree happens with Warzone, is that I don't think innately having a different idea is detrimental to Halo, but the problem is the further it strays from the concept, the more resources it's going to take from something else. And
sure,
I understand, I love Warzone, but BTB did get shafted. I'm sure partially it was a financial thing, like, hey, we want to push people to rec backs, but also just, hey, we've got this core arena focus and we've got this Warzone function we really want to push, and BTB was the little redheaded stepchild of that. And they're like, well, Forge will fix it, and Forge does an awesome job, but it can't do better than dev maps. We'll see what Halo Infinite's Forge is like, I guess. But there's always going to be, the reality is there's going to be some loser in game development. And so I feel like if they chase, like, you'd have to have massive worlds that we don't have, massive maps that aren't going to cross over to any other game mode, stuff like that. It's just, I would play a Halo Battle Royale game, but I'd be concerned about having a Battle Royale game mode because I like what I've already got in my Halo games, and I don't want to lose some of that.
Plus, if I want to play Battle Royale, I'm going to go play Fortnite or whatever Battle Royale game is out.
Yeah, like there's, to a certain degree, I don't think throwing a mode in to chase a trend is going to displace the more popular game.
Some people might even mock you over it.
See,
who would do that?
I'm on the opposite end of the spectrum, and I think actually Battle Royale type game mode for Halo with AI is sort of in the DNA of the first books. Because what is Fortnite, like 100 players? Let's just say you had 50 to 100 players that all drop in with their pistols, and they're all on the same team, and you're in a giant environment, and you all have to band together and take out a Covenant base or encampment. I can see that being really fun. Everyone has one life. The people who can make it to the end live. I think it would be uniquely Halo with the amount of diversity and the AI and the sort of scenarios and weapons. I could see that being a really cool thing.
I would say
like you and your buddies.
The rebuttal to that, although the popularity of Fortnite, I guess, also argues against it, is that one of the big things 343 pushed was what's it called? Breakout. And that bombed hard. Like it was pretty much the bottom of the playlist populations when they published it. And I think part of it was a one life setup did not work for Halo fans, even when they changed it to Arena Breakout where there wasn't the weird damage differential. Like I liked Breakout, but if you die in the first 5 seconds in Fortnite and stuff, you just start a new game. Like having to sit around would stink. Like, so it's...
Well, right, you could always leave to go to the
it would just be a different...
Stay there.
They were just
different game.
They were just trying to mimic Search and Destroy from COD.
Yeah, which I just don't think works for...
I mean, and the way they pushed
Halo.
it too was silly because it was a Forge custom mode like that someone had created, and then they just kind of made it into an official game type. Like, I don't know. It was weird to me.
I think there's so many things wrong with Breakout that I think it was kind of doomed to start, especially trying to force it on people when the things they were expecting from the game weren't there. Like if the game had launched with a good campaign and the oddball,
I think a big reason was because of
and everything.
I think a big reason was because Kevin Franklin, because he was. I remember there was like a whole video about how like kind of Breakout was his big like his thing because he played paintball and stuff. There was a whole video about it.
Don't get me wrong.
That was a
Breakout's
video.
a fun mode.
It's a fun mode, but it was already a mode as an action SAT game type, and it should have stayed as an action SAT game type, not as its own like playlist.
Its own playlist.
Yeah, agreed.
Well, it just, even if it deserved its own playlist, it didn't deserve the resources they threw into it. Like the whole animation launching in thing. Like, all right, that was clearly wasted.
That was all for Breakout.
Yeah.
And there are plenty of other opportunities to should have had something like Oddball in there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or any other classic
the pieces,
Halo
though.
game.
The Forge pieces are cool. That's the best thing I can say about it.
That's true. And the Forge Courts with kind of the Tron-looking floor.
Yeah, I love the floor. Super cool. Tron floors. Tron
I'm
floors
surprised
everywhere.
they didn't really kind of utilize that a little bit more or make something that was a little more of a standard palette, especially for competitive. I mean, if you want to talk about having something that wouldn't be as resource intensive for a map, like recreate Onslaught in a Breakout map. As long as you had the template to do it, you could do it. And I think it would actually work well for that kind of competitive scene.
I think people just want a pretty looking map at the same time as well, though. Like they don't want
True.
maps that all look like very similar.
Yeah, but you only do it for maybe one or
Halo
two.
Reach.
No, yeah. Halo Reach is a big example. Yeah, I get that. Yeah, like you could do it with like one or two maps. Like it wouldn't destroy like your eyes by looking at just because there's still variety of the original maps for competitive play as well.
So open world concept for a campaign?
I'm with it. I'm with it. I mean, honestly, I don't mind it because I don't know about you guys, but during like Halo 2 and 3, I would always try and get out of the maps on campaign and just like run around and just explore. Obviously, you're not supposed to, but I did. So I'm open to the idea of it.
Yeah, in Halo 4 they tried to start doing that a little bit, but I felt they really drew back from that with Halo 5's campaign.
Yeah.
Well, I think
Halo 4
I'm
seemed a
not
little
concerned.
more of an open environment.
Halo Reach did the worst though with that whole like Return to Battlefield thing.
Yeah. But although on the other hand, Halo Reach did have stuff where you could choose what objectives to go to.
Yeah.
Like
I feel like there was a lot more life in that game as well in regards to animals and civilians and things like that.
Punch the MOA.
Yeah.
I think I'm interested in open world Halo because I'm not concerned. Maybe I should be concerned. I don't think that they're going to chase the open world trend in that, I've got this just a map with like a million subquests and options and you get sidetracked if you're like me and you're like, oh my God, I've got to clear all these stupid things off the map because I can't see what the heck I want to do actually. And then you've spent 20 hours doing something that's irrelevant to the story. Like I think Halo has been great in that you can spend 20 hours doing something that's not in the story because the sandbox is so fun and you've got people like Bad Cyborg on halo.bungie.org who is still playing the original PAL version of Halo and is still finding new things to do and like just discovered new speedrunning strategies inadvertently, like playing around with that game because he just does everything and has not run out of things to do. And so I think they just, as long as they realize that you don't need to just throw stuff at players and hope that it sticks, that if you put enough trust in your core gameplay and just provide a big open world for people to do their own stuff as well, then that sounds like a great idea.
Well, and just add the lore bits kind of like they have it in Halo Wars 2, where you can go and find all the pieces in the codex by just exploring the world, but it's not going to be a quintessential part of the campaign experience if you just want to run through it.
I just want to explore a Halo ring.
One last thing to talk about this and story, the fact that he puts the chip in the back of his head.
Yeah.
Yeah, what was that?
AI chip.
Yeah.
And that's actually the Halo 4 port and geometry, it looks like. It's the same sort of gasket at the end of his helmet.
Yeah, I feel like the chip is way smaller than it was in Halo 3. Like, he's gotten way bigger hands or something. There's no way the Halo 3 chip...
It looks like
a serial number on it, too.
Halo 5 gave him a big head.
Chief's got a new girlfriend.
I don't know, I have a feeling that's a Cortana copy.
I mean, he found Halsey, so, I mean...
Or a piece of her, or a fragment. Well, I don't know.
Halsey could have helped out with that.
Well, I'll just put... I mean, I guess technically it's a theory, although for me, I thought it was kind of spelled out really well in 5, as well as 4, because at the end of 4, she says the rest of me is down there, and then she says goodbye to him. So it would make sense that we said only goodbye to part of Cortana that had her empathy and her love for him, which is why she was so sappy and emotional with him. And the Cortana that we see in 5 is another part of her, but it's missing the empathy and the emotional side of her, which is why Frankie and Brian Reed were like, no, this is Cortana.
It's a rampant part.
Well, not even rampant. It's like if you didn't have any respect for human life or love for people, then you wouldn't have the same thought process that you normally would. So she's just doing what she thinks is right, like they said, but it's only because she's missing a literal part of her mind.
I think that runs into the issue
she's thinking analytically instead of like thinking with her heart.
With any sort of...
I think the problem with that is that based on what we got with how you split off copies and all the other stuff, you can't really cut out your personality in that way. Like you don't, when people have the theory, and admittedly 343 has stoked this too, so who knows where they're going with it. But the idea that you can't just spin off only rampant copies of yourself, because if you could do that, then you could cure rampancy by just splitting off the bad stuff. I'm clearly in the minority about this, but we wrote about it on Forward Unto Dawn years ago when Halo 5 came out, that you can buy... I've had big arguments with Heruspus about this, but in Human Weakness, basically the Gravemind has a line to Cortana where he points out that she did stuff like send Ackerson to a war zone in pretty much an act of petty revenge. And he points out like that really the only difference between you and I is I have the power like to do what I do and she doesn't. And the idea of, well, if you give someone an infinite lifespan and the power to do whatever, and you are an AI from a person who believed really strongly in the greater good over everything else, as Halsey brings up in Halo 5, and was working for a pretty terrible fascist organization for humanity. 26th century humanity is not a great place. I think it follows fine. Whether or not this is... I could see it being a Cortana copy. I would like it to be someone else. I was sad when I realized that the 2560 date means that it can't be Black Box, because he's totally got to be dead by then.
From the audio thing?
From Hunt the Truth and the Kilo 5 trilogy. Yeah. But he was active in late 2553, so...
Gotcha.
I doubt he could be around.
He could just be near the end.
That's true. We'll see. Or it could be...
Well, actually, due to the extended lore... Right now, Black Box is marooned on an isolated planet.
Yeah, he's on Frostbox World.
Not going to be Black
Fractures. Box. Probably not.
Am I the only one who doesn't give two arses about Cortana and Halsey at this point? Their story is done out, argued over, and Seriously, new player coming in. Do you think they want the baggage of Halsey and Cortana after 4 and 5? Fuck no. You want some?
No, I
have a fresh new experience, a
too.
fresh new AI. Therefore, that new AI could be learning along with the player. You know what I mean? The first time the AI is on a Halo, it would be pointing out things to you, learning as you learn about the whole new thing. You don't need the baggage of Cortana and Halsey again. Still.
So you're saying you think it would be an audience surrogate AI?
Might be just that. Yeah, why not?
So I think you still have the story of Cortana from the fact that she's doing the galaxy.
As an antagonist,
and like I said, they still need to finish that storyline up.
I'm not saying skip that.
Yeah, well, that's why I think it's a copy he's putting in his helmet, just because it's blue. It's a story about the chief. But I was trying to get it before sidetracking us into the whole debate was it seemed like a kind of little teaser at the end of, he's putting Cortana back in his head.
Yeah.
That's what we associate that image with in the blue and the chief.
But it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be Cortana.
Because honestly, I just don't like where they went with it, and it's been done to death at this point. Like, it's not new, it's not interesting, and new players won't get like about, oh yes, a decade of lore with Cortana I must understand before I can, you know.
No, I agree. I think it's time that the character is.
Well, plus her sacrificing herself for Chief just kind of like falls flat now that she's not even really like actually dead at this point.
She can sacrifice herself again.
Oh, great.
I hope they pay off the Cortana storyline somehow, but I don't think continuing the Cortana storyline with the new game is a good idea.
Yeah, I don't either.
In as far as her splitting off her rampant pieces and all that, that's a 5-hour debate. The deal is AI is the chief is going to pair with an AI. And if it's a new one, then that means that he has it pretty much means he's destroyed whatever's left of Cortana.
Can I make one small suggestion? I don't want to do it, but I'll do it anyway. Right. Cortana was created in the image of Halsey way back when. Halsey as a character has changed and developed since then. What if she makes a new clone of her own brain, or her mindset is right now, which would be technically a new AI, but it would still be Cortana, but probably with a different name. But it would be still the same kind of personality.
The other flip side that I just mentioned in the chat, because Eric Ibu was talking about it, is that there are still some outstanding flash cones of Halsey's brain from when she first made them. Like, theoretically, all right, they were just torched on Reach, but we don't have any idea where they ended up after she made Cortana. So there's that.
Diving really deep into old lore, though.
That is that
seems like a stretch, even for 343.
It's from Halsey's journal. So, yes, I'm just saying, it's out there.
You know, if they do create a new AI, I hope, they can pay homage to Cortana, but I think they need to come out with a different way to do this. And not a Cortana copy, just a new AI.
It's actually funny because if they do give him a new AI, then it'll be kind of like him going against what he said to Cortana, because Cortana said that they're going to pair you with another AI, and she's like, I'm really sad about it. And then he tells her, like, no, that's not going to happen. We'll find Halsey. And then, yeah. So then Chief just kind of goes back on his word.
They'll find Halsey to fix Cortana. But if he has to kill Cortana, then...
God, I hate this storyline.
Do you see what I mean by baggage? Do you see what I mean by baggage? This is such a baggage for a new player.
When she became the antagonist,
they really need to get like Kevin Feige and like Vince Gilligan and like the best writers in the world to like figure out what the hell they're gonna do.
The thing I would say about everything is
that Oni? Is that Oni?
That's the fuzz coming for me. Yeah, I think the thing that I say, it's been my mantra ever since people complained about Sarah Palmer, is that there are no bad characters, there are no bad plot twists, there is only bad writing. And so whether or not, I think the worst thing that people have suggested is just dropping, like immediately erasing the storyline. Like, you have to deal with it. And obviously what people think is the best way to deal with it, but varies. but just ignoring it isn't going to work, and so they're going to have to figure out some way of doing it. And if they have a strong enough writing, you can do it. There's no hole you cannot dig yourself out of.
Agreed.
There's a couple other things. Oh, jeez. There's a couple of other things I want to touch on before we start to wrap this up, because we're going on for quite a while now. But all good conversation nonetheless. The new engine is called Slipspace engine. I don't know if we've actually said that yet on the show. Taking after Slipspace from the Halo Faster Than Light Travel. Kind of makes sense. I don't think there's any kind of hidden meaning there, so we'll just kind of let that pass as a...
Someone thought it was a cute joke. It's the engine. It's the Slipspace engine. Get it? And
yeah.
That was how it was born.
343 Industries Slipspace engine. Yeah.
Speaking of dangling plot threads we have not heard about in years.
Don't go there. Don't go there.
Wait, what?
Remember that time when 343 ran off with the UNSC ship saying he could find the librarian? And it hasn't been touched on in years?
You went there.
I don't, but you can explain that to me afterwards.
The end of Primordium.
He hasn't read the book yet.
Oh God. Oh no.
Primordium I've read. I just read it once.
Yeah,
he's
the end
that
of it.
far behind that he hasn't read it.
Oh, that's right. Okay.
Yeah.
No, I remember
How
that
did
now.
you forget about Guilty Spark? Buggering off, finding the librarian? Like, oh.
I've only read through those books once, so I don't know all the.
He remembers
details,
mostly
okay.
the licking of space toads, not that part.
On the diarrhea, maybe?
I remember I'm still confused about the Star Roads, but yeah.
All right, yeah. Sorry to digress, but
it's okay. Slipspace engine, new engine for Halo. There you go. That's all you need to know. They did post a blog entry on Waypoint at the announcement of the Infinite trailer. Almost said Infinity. They said they are taking inspiration from the most iconic and historic parts of the Halo franchise, incorporating feedback and what they've learned from Halo 4 and Halo 5, incorporating Sparth's new art style that draws from that classic inspiration. They also said they've heard the feedback loud and clear on the amount of time spent playing as Master Chief in Halo 5, so they're going to focus a lot more on Master Chief in this new experience. Hopefully it will be all Master Chief and not just partly Master Chief.
I don't think they're going to make that mistake again anytime soon.
I certainly would expect them not to.
They have probably pulled
I wouldn't mind having 2 points of story like they did in Halo 2. They just need to make sure that you play as Master Chief for at least half the game, not 3 missions.
Do a spin-off. Don't jerk around the mainline Halo again. Just don't do that.
In the future, you will be able to join early flighting programs that will let members of the community play the game with us and give direct feedback, much like the current flighting program for the Master Chief Collection.
There's going to be so much salt if people will get into
that. This is written by Chris Lee, studio head of the first-person shooter games.
And you know for a fact people are going to barnyard out of that and leak it. The first time they let the public in, that stuff's going to be everywhere.
I missed the barn leak really badly. I just want to say that. Like, I want someone in 2018 or 2019 to copy footage onto a VHS tape, find a standard definition television, put it in a barn, and then leak information that way. I just want it to happen.
The barn leak.
Yeah, This was for Halo 4. That's literally how a bunch of stuff got leaked, was someone had a VHS tape on an SD TV in a barn with like straw everywhere.
It was so good, it made people forget about the Reach leak. The Reach leak was amazing for its time. And then the barn one was just like meta. The barn one was so meta, it just blew away everyone's memory of the Reach leak.
I don't even remember this.
We're going to have to send you a link and you can put it in the show notes. There's got to be still copies online.
Okay.
It was glorious.
Dang. All right. Final thoughts and comments about the announcement. Let's start with Masterz.
I don't know, it's going to be, if it's more than a year out, and I think if it was within a year of coming out, we'd have been told.
I forgot to add that as a discussion topic, but since you brought it up, just really briefly.
Yeah, it's...
New engine, a lot of people are thinking 2020.
Yeah,
instead of 2019.
If it's a year and a half, that sucks. That really sucks.
Where's my ODST 2?
Well,
something in between now and then. Do you think
I don't know. It's going to be a long time unless they do like early public betas. I don't know.
Do you think it's possible that with them redeveloping the engine, that maybe they wanted to get a lot under their footing from a tech standpoint, and maybe they have a lot of the storyline already kicked out where we could still see a 2019 release? Or maybe a spring 2020 release. So maybe it's not a full 4 years, but maybe 4.5 years.
I would like that. I don't know.
Yeah.
I would like to be playing something new Halo FPS in next year, but I don't think I'm going to get that.
Yeah, a year seems too soon, but we can hope.
Especially with MCC getting a big update. And
yeah.
But I wouldn't rest on MCC being the thing that will hold people over between Halo 5 and Halo Infinite. Because, yes, technically Halo Wars 2 came out, but that's not going to fit for people that...
Well, yeah, I mean, Halo Wars 1 sold 1 million copies. It's just not, even when it's an amazing game that sells well for a console RTS, it's just not comparable.
Well, it doesn't really matter either one way or another because it's not really a Halo FPS, and that's what the bread and butter of Halo is. Maybe we'll get a Halo Funkos or whatever the hell they're called.
The Funkos?
Yeah, like they did for the Gears thing.
Hey, Halo was going to do that first. Remember the cancelled game that got leaked? The not Halo Lego?
Yeah, the Mega Blocks.
Yeah, that looked awesome.
I don't know. It'd be nice to throw us something in the meantime to give us something to play.
Yeah. Okay, so sorry to interrupt you, Masterz, but have anything else to add?
Me or anybody else?
No, you. Since I interrupt your last comments.
Oh, I forgot what I was saying anyway. I don't know. It's just going to be a long wait. I just hope we get something soon.
Likewise. The flighting program could be, if they did do the same thing like they did for Halo 5, and it seemed after they did the beta with Halo 5 multiplayer, that they're going to look at least for 9 months before the game. I'm guessing it might be up to a year with the flighting program that they're looking to do. So that might give us a little bit of a better time frame whenever there's more announcements about the flighting program.
Well, I'm sure we'll hear more after MCC relaunches.
Hopefully, yeah.
I have a feeling right now they're just going to focus on MCC relaunch
and let this one just sizzle. Let it melt our brains.
Yeah, it would be nice if we got a little bit more details, not necessarily story details, but details about the engine and what they're doing and why, and what their goals are with it, long term and short term.
I agree. It was not much detail in this game engine demo, but it was just a good showing off of, hey, this is the new thing that we're going to be working on for this game, and oh, it looks so pretty.
Pretty.
All right, Danny, how about you? Last thoughts?
My only disappointment, the only negative thing about this whole thing is just the lack of detail.
I think everyone's that way.
They hit all the right notes. They said all the right things minimally in the way that they would minimally say it, and just want more information at this point. So, I'm hopeful.
I think that sums it up for quite a few people. Dave, Fuchs, whatever. I'm sorry.
Sorry to interject, but I think if there's one thing that this announcement did, and it absolutely needed to do and did, is if you had lost interest in Halo, this should definitely have captured your interest in multiple ways again.
Yeah, I think that's the point, is that while I don't necessarily agree with all the criticisms of 343's Halo, this is a really good indication of, hey, they're listening and they're going to put the time in to do what they need to make a good game. And that's all I really hope for. So we'll see.
Very nice. Sandman?
Pretty much what everybody else said. I'm worried about how long it's going to take for the game to come out. But at the same time, because they are having so much time to make this game, I'm hopeful because that is a lot of time to make a game. I mean, I'm kind of curious, what have they been doing the past 3 years?
Fixing MCC?
Gosh, I hope so. But I definitely do think that MCC, them fixing that, and Halo pursuing with the Halo World Championship Series and whatnot, I do think that a lot of that is them kind of holding us over. I think that's their general plan. till this new Halo comes out, and I guarantee like once the flights come out, and then they'll start doing that. But I mean, I'm excited. I mean, I'm a Halo fan. Regardless if I'm not hopeful or if I am hopeful, I'm gonna play the heck out of it. I'm gonna buy it at midnight, and I'm gonna grind it. So hopefully it's good.
GT?
I've said it before. Ship a complete game. That's what I hope.
Hallelujah. Please.
The trailer looks awesome. It does hit all the right notes. Literally. I think if they follow the direction that is in the trailer, where they're kind of blending the old and the new art styles, I think aesthetically it's going to be a pleasing game. I hope they don't go too retro on the gameplay as far as mechanics and movement, but I am definitely looking forward to playing it.
Thanks. For me, the thing that I'm kind of missing here, obviously, is the multiplayer, because this is just a tech demo, so it's seeing how everything is pretty and whatnot. So definitely echo the sentiment of having a completely shipped game, including Forge and the campaign and multiplayer and all the other stuff. I'm excited for the possibilities that this new engine holds for the environment spaces that we have for the campaign and for Forge. It'll be interesting to see what the mechanisms look like from a gameplay and mechanics perspective, but I do get the sense of that classic Halo feel, not necessarily the everything being classic, but being on a Halo ring, kind of being that serene but centralized focus on the ring and not this giant galactic scope. I find that comforting just through the demo.
I agree. It's back to basics in many ways.
So that's going to wrap it up for this show. I want to thank all of our guests for being on, for Danny and David over from Forward Unto Dawn for being on the show.
Happy.
You guys want to plug your sites real quick?
Yeah. It's forwarduntodon.com. We had the name before there was a web series that took it and stole our Google juice. We're going to have our own podcast episodes out soon, and there'll be some new content coming down soon too.
Very nice. Masterz, you want to plug your stuff?
Yeah, so mine is reddit.com/r/Halo SPv3. And I guess for people who know the project, we haven't really made any formal announcements, but if you've been following us or like what we've put out previously, we have a new patch coming out, hopefully early next year, which will provide 6 more missions and bug fixes. And if you were excited about our ODST sequel we were doing, be disappointed because we had to cancel it.
Oh no.
That's a discussion for another time.
Okay. And Sandman, how about people find you across the internet?
I mean, they could just follow me on Twitter at David, Sandman with 2 S's. But also, I don't know if I can do this, but I also just like to plug teambeyond.net, the home of competitive Halo.
Sure.
They just started up a new forum in regards to Halo Infinite. So there's a whole discussion over there in regards to what competitive Halo lies for that game and Halo 5 as well.
Very nice. And I won't go into details about plugging a lot of our stuff since we'll do that on our main recording show next week. But you can find us everywhere across the internet, on social media, streaming platforms, and all that fun stuff. And you can find us on our podcast network, THEPODCAST.com. On behalf of everyone here tonight, thank you guys for tuning in to us either via live stream or downloading the show. We hope that Halo Infinite has gotten your interest piqued for the future of the Halo franchise, and hopefully to see how the saga continues with the Master Chief.